Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your hosts live from New York Comic Con 2019.
What is up? This is John.
And I'm CC. And when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we got you covered. Yes, we were indeed at New York Comic Con, but now we are back to talk about all the hot new anime previews of fall. So we'll definitely do that later in the sneak peek. And of course, we also have our first review from summer for you. So today we'll get our asses to Mars and discuss the new pop music sensation that are Carole Tuesday. So a bunch of great anime talk coming up in a couple of minutes. But first, since we rarely get to do this, why not talk a bit about our experience at Comic-Con? Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. So yeah, this is a segment we rarely get to have. I called it ReCon, and I think the last time we did it, it was when John went to Connecticut, which was like 2017, something, maybe?
Ish.
Yeah, okay. This is not a recurring segment, really. But, I mean, you know, this time we have good reason. I actually took the trip from Germany to the US via good old plane. And we met up in New York with a bunch of other friends. And then we had 4 days of Comic-Con Blapalooza, if we want to call it that.
Comic-Con overload.
Yay! Yeah, a bunch of stuff. Mostly a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them in costumes. I don't know. What was the best cosplay you saw, John?
Oh, geez. Trying to remember now, to be honest, because there were so many. But, you know, I also wanted to see all of the things on the floor.
Yeah.
So, what was your pick?
There was a Carnage cosplay that was super wild that I hadn't seen before. This giant dude and fucking, I don't know, with this weird axe thing and everything. It looked super weird. I wonder if it was from Ultimate Carnage or whatever the current crossover is called in the comics. But that was pretty cool. And just a bunch of generally creative stuff. Just a lot of 80s horror people as 80s horror icons. A lot of anime cosplay, of course. A lot of My Hero Academia cosplay. My Hero Academia in general is pretty big in the US, you can tell. Like, a lot of people cosplaying it, and if it's only like people wearing the UA Academy shirts and suits, like, you know, the blue shirts with the white outline and everything. And also in terms of figures, like, was it the Good Smile booth or was it somewhere else? I don't remember, but somewhere there were like con-exclusive figures, or at least a bunch of figures, and the only one sold out when we got there was Deku. And it's like, yo.
Well, I mean, Good Smile in Kotobukiya.
It was Kotobukiya.
A whole bunch of stuff on display. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The Kotobukiya also had the super dope Mega Man X figures. I want to buy all of them. God damn it!
I kind of don't want to do too, but I already have so many stuff from Kotobukiya that I haven't assembled yet. So it's like,
Excuse me, I'll try again. We had also a movie experience.
Yes. Don't give that away yet, because
but we did see at Kotobukiya a prototype figure of one of the characters from it, and it was really cool. So it'll be interesting to see the finished product for that as well.
Yes, I also saw the finished version of the Figma of Genos, which I definitely want to buy. One of the best characters from One Punch Man, and I would like to own that. And in generally, just so much to see. Like, Comic-Con, if you were afraid of crowds, that thing is not for you. Just, you know, cons in general are, you know, a lot of people coming together. I heard, what is it? The big one in LA.
Anime Expo?
Anime Expo is a nightmare, or so I've heard.
I've only ever heard it referred to as LineCon.
Yes,
so.
And this one was LineCon as well. And especially for the panels, I mean, I didn't get in every panel that I wanted to, but I got to see Yoshitaka Amano, the famous character designer or artist in general for the Final Fantasy series, and he actually did some live drawings. during the panel and talked about his biography. And he actually has an anime project coming up. It's called G-Bait. I think that's how you pronounce it. And he is the character designer for that. And Naoki Serizawa, who was the monster designer for the Resident Evil series, is also involved. So that's going to be cool. And the guy responsible for the music is also a familiar name if you are a fan of old school video games. And that's Yuzo Koshiro.
Hey.
Who has been doing a bunch of great video game soundtracks. So, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I don't know exactly when it's coming up. I think it's scheduled for summer 2020 or something. Yeah, summer 2020. But that was definitely something that was announced before, apparently. I didn't know about it, but it was announced before. But hearing about that at the con was pretty cool, and seeing the first artwork and everything. So yeah, that was. I'm looking forward to that. I like Yoshitaka Amano's art. Translating that to anime, in my opinion, is very hard. One thing that did it the best was Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, which, as I stated before, is one of my favorite anime of all time. And the art is one reason for that, which perfectly captured like these delicate lines that Amano uses in his drawings, and worked it into anime movie form pretty perfectly. And yeah, I'm excited to see how he does in a TV series. And yeah, and aside from that, I went to the 20th anniversary panel of Batman Beyond, which was a lot of fun. Finally seeing a few of my favorite voice actors and people working in the animation industry live was also great. And yeah, so besides that, meeting John and a bunch of our friends, or my friends from the US.
Meeting? You mean reuniting? We saw each other at Otakon 10 years ago, man.
Yeah, I know. I mean, some of the other guys I met for the first time live.
That's true.
Right? So
yes.
We met each other before, but like half of the people we had over in New York, I hadn't met before. So it was cool. Yeah, so what else besides the figure stuff did you see that was interesting to you at Comic-Con?
Well, you and I went to that Capcom industry panel, which was pretty cool. They talked a lot about Project Resistance, which, it looks neat enough, I guess. Very Left 4 Dead-ish, but it seems like it's trying to do its own thing. So maybe try the beta. I don't know. We'll see. They showed off a lot about Monster Hunter World Iceborne and the big Resident Evil crossover therein with a goofy trailer, which is great.
Yeah.
They talked a bit about upcoming Street Fighter competition as well. It was an Intel World Cup, I think, and how Street Fighter is apparently an Olympic sport now. Sure.
Apparently, yes. Sure. Why not?
Which is, I get it, but I don't. But that's fine.
I'm interested to see how that tournament pans out, and what other video games will join the fray of becoming Olympic games or part of the Olympics.
Yeah. The other big panel that one of the friends we went with and I went and saw, you unfortunately showed up a little too late to get in, but it was the Funimation industry panel, which was mostly check out all of these shows we've licensed, and a whole bunch of which I suspect we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But hey, it was still fun, and it helped build some interest for some of their new properties. So that was cool. They also gave away some merch. So fortunately, did not win anything. Sad face.
Yeah, in general, I didn't buy that much at Comic-Con because I knew I would spend a lot of money during this vacation anyway, so I was like, maybe not. I think I bought a shirt and something at the Nintendo World Store in New York.
Yeah, I didn't buy anything on the floors. I got a Kirby Nintendo at the Nintendo World Store and some a Lego set for my nephew from the big Lego store there. Tried a couple of game demos on the floor as well. The Mega Man Zero ZX collection, which of course I'm going to buy it. I just won't to put hands on it.
I mean, I wouldn't have if you couldn't have turned, it turned out that you can't turn off the fucking smoothing filter that looks like super garbage. But you can.
in the words of one Maximilian dude, the Vaseline filter.
Yes.
Apparently, a couple of our other friends were saying that there's some weird latency input with the PS4 version because they had a demo station for each version, the Switch, PS4, and Xbox, which apparently was a little bit of an issue in the PS4 Mega Man X collection as well.
I think the lag was an issue in all anniversary collections. Like, I think not in all games, but in some of the Switch versions of the X collection, like I think the NES Super NES ports, it was better with the PlayStation ports, if I'm not mistaken, because it had to use a different emulator. I don't remember. But yeah, in general, like those anniversary collections are not perfect. And if you want the perfect experience, you gotta play the old games or on a really good emulator.
Or just get yourself an analog, one of the analog consoles. I forget what the Super Nintendo one is called.
I think just Analog NT or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, these collections are just good to have, are convenient to have all the games like on one cartridge or something like that, and or a lot of those games, and have them all in one place. So you don't have to connect your old consoles or whatever, or have to download ROMs from some illegal site to play it on your PC.
Yeah, which a lot is being cracked down on because Nintendo came down hard on a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, they are going to keep existing, and I think that's a good thing actually because game companies are not that intent on actually preserving all of their games.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had experience with the past. Some games just disappeared and can't be bought or accessed in any way anymore if they are not in some way kept alive by some people, albeit for maybe shady means. But I prefer this over the games disappearing completely.
True.
So.
The other demo I tried out was... Oh, no, I tried out two other demos, excuse me. A couple of us went and tried out My Hero One's Justice 2.
Yes, I've not played the first one. Like, it's a standard arena fighting thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's more of the same with a bigger roster and the character animations and designs look, cleaned up, so...
Wait, who's developing that? It's not CyberConnect, right?
No. I believe it's... an in-house Bandai Namco job, if I recall correctly. And then the other actual one I tried, speaking of CyberConnect 2, was, still think this is the weirdest, dumbest name, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Couldn't have picked a better name, guys. I mean, it's a CyberConnect 2 game. It's a fine little button masher. I fought Raditz for the 1,000th time. I don't think it's a buy at launch game though.
No. And none of these games for me are, if at all. It's like if I see them in the bargain bin or something, I'm like, hey, sure, maybe. But it's like I don't even remember when the last time was that I really, really was into one of these stockpiling on anime games that just, get a new iteration with every year, they are basically the Japanese version of FIFA or fucking, the NBA games or stuff like that. Like, not much new in there. A few new characters, maybe some few mechanics, and otherwise, it's the same fucking game. It looks good, sure, maybe, but it's like there's not there. A lot of those always seem kind of, I don't know, shallow to me.
I mean, from what I played though, and from what I heard from what Digital Foundry was saying about the Gamescom build, maybe I'm not going to play it on console. Because it's, even from the demo build they had there, was like, oh geez, this is a little rough in the performance department, guys.
When is that coming out?
Sometime in January.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're getting the new consoles next year, and maybe there'll be a remastered version, whatever, game of the year updated. But yeah, Comic-Con was super fun, even though super busy. But I had a really good time. I wouldn't want to do this like every week, every month, every year even, I think. But it was definitely worth going once, at least. I might go back there sometime in my life. I don't know. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience and a good one overall. Yeah, definitely. I enjoyed the panels that I went to. I enjoyed hanging out with my friends. I enjoyed seeing all the people in costume, all the artwork at Artists Alley, all the everything basically. All the fucking barrage of comic, manga, anime, video game input that I got from that con. And did you have an overall positive experience as well?
Yeah, man, it was great getting to see I think there was only one among us who I hadn't met before, our friend who lives in Canada, because I had met everyone else at various points. You and another one of our friends I met at Otakon, a friend in New York I see every year because I usually go to Comic-Con. Like I get it like a Thursday pass. I'll go up for the day, and that's pretty much my whole day. But our other friend from California, I saw when the two of us went to Vegas to go to Final Fantasy 14 Fan Fest, which that was wild as well. But it was great getting to see everyone all together in one place. And obviously we can't do it all the time, but it'd be cool to be able to do it more often.
Yes. Stuffing our faces with fast food. And
oh my god,
we
ate so much food.
And the most important thing, windjammers.
Yes. I introduced everyone to the gospel of windjammers.
Adhere to the gospel of windjammers. It will enrich your life, people. Have you heard the good news of windjammers?
It's like $15 on Switch. Buy it, play it, love it, make friends, make enemies.
Yeah. And Windjammers 2 is in the pipeline, so that's coming out eventually. And hopefully that will have a robust online experience, because I definitely want to wind you guys up again. That's not the right word, but sure. That was just a fun time. A great party game in my opinion, and a sleeper hit for this experience. Definitely. A lot of rage and laughs were to be had.
The option on the menu for a rematch was revenge!
Yeah!
Which one of our friends kept yelling out when he was mashing the button on it.
Good times. All right, that's it for our experience with New York Comic Con 2019. And now we'll move over to the new premieres of the anime season of Fall 2019. All right, time for the sneak peek, everyone. And man, this one is packed.
It's a little chunky.
Dude, Fall is not messing around. When I looked at the roster the first time, I was like, none of this. There's some cool returning series, but all the new stuff, I don't know. And I just started watching the premieres, and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. Oh, this looks interesting. Oh, this looks fuck.
That was summer, and this is I thought summer was going to be the big one this year, and then fall comes on and say, hey, there's like 20 shows to look at.
Yeah. All right. There's still one premiere that I definitely want to check out that hasn't aired yet, which is the new season of Psycho Pass. Say what you will about the second season, and I haven't watched the movie yet, which apparently is good. But, I want to at least give this a chance. I think there were supposed to come some specials to come out as well. I don't know what happened to those. But I love the first season of Psycho Pass, so I have to at least take a look at that.
From what I was looking at with Psycho Pass 3, after, I forget if it was between Psycho Pass 1 and 2 or after 2, but there was that movie that came out, and that movie was good. Mm-hmm. It was decent. Then there were 3 more movies after that I guess are tied in with Psycho Pass 3 somehow. And 3 is written by by the guys who worked on the movies, as well as one of the guys who wrote 2. which leaves me a little
anxious.
Yes. Also, the OP was posted online the other day, and I mean, it has actual animation, unlike Psycho Pass 2, but it's really weird and disjointed and not good. So I'm not certain about Psycho Pass. I want to be proven wrong. I want to be proven wrong because the premiere isn't until next week. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little worried.
I mean, that show really, in general, that show didn't need a sequel because what Urobuchi wanted to say with that show, with that franchise as it is now, for some reason, he said with that one season that was done, and that like the ending of that was a perfect like we've come full circle thing, and actually doing a sequel to that felt like it was doing the series a disservice. Not only because Psycho Pass Season 2 was absolute garbage, like the worst of all dumpster fires, but in general, it was like, no, this is like, we don't need this. It's fine. I mean, I will check it out, like I said, but it's like, this is not necessary, which is kind of how I felt about the new Breaking Bad movie, which I really liked, but I'm like, yeah, this is totally unnecessary. And apparently fucking Vince Gilligan, the creator of Breaking Bad, agrees, which is the weirdest thing. He said the same thing. Yeah, I actually said everything I said with the series, and that movie is just for the fans, but it's totally unnecessary. And I'm like, great, we agree. Fantastic. So I wonder if Gen Urobuchi agrees with me in that regard of Psychopath Pass as well. And it's like, yeah, that we don't need more Psychopaths. I mean, I'll watch more Psychopaths if it's good, but we don't need it.
I mean, at least we know, because God, fucking Tatsunoko phoned it in so hard with the production of 2. So I'm hoping that production IG can at least pull it back a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I usually, trust in production IG because they have rarely disappointed me in the past, but we'll see. We'll see what happens and where their priorities lie in this season. I mean, they got another show running, which we'll get to momentarily, I think, actually. But yeah, well, since you got more nopes than I think you should maybe start with your nopes. Explanation again for first-time listeners. We got 3 sections in this segment. We got the nopes, we got the maybes, and the keepers. The nopes, of course, the shows that we decided to instantly drop because we thought though they don't appeal to us, they are not worth our time. The maybes are like, yeah, there's some interesting stuff here. Maybe we'll keep this around, but there's also some stuff that put us off a bit, maybe, or doesn't seem so well thought out, so maybe we'll drop them after a couple of episodes. And then the keepers, of course, are the shows that we were really intrigued with and that we are sure we're gonna keep around until the end of the season. All right, so let's start with the nopes. John, what is your first nope?
Kabukicho Sherlock.
This is my one and only nope. There we go.
Also,
I think that's a production IG show, the other one this season.
I think so. There's one other one, I think, which I will also talk about. But,
yeah, maybe I'm mixing those up, but
it's sure. Also localized by Funimation as Case File Number 221 Kabukicho, which, if you know your literature, 221B Baker Street is where Sherlock's home is. Ha 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 ha.
I didn't know that, but thanks.
Yes.
Makes sense.
I was like, well, why did they change it?
I wonder though, are they not allowed to use Sherlock as a brand name? Because that would definitely, probably attract more viewers than that cryptic, book reference. I guess, which is probably in spirit with the show, but still.
I honestly, I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but
all right,
it's whatever. But yeah, in a setting where Shinjuku ward of Tokyo has been walled and split into east and west parts, the east side is the chaotic affair known as Kabukicho. A serial killer known as Jack the Ripper is on the prowl and seems to have claimed another victim, but fear not! One particular tenement boasts a cadre of detectives who compete with each other to solve cases for cash prizes. One young doctor stumbles onto this particular scene while seeking out Sherlock Holmes to hire him to investigate some strange incidences at his hospital. But first, a killer must be caught. Japan has this weird issue with the portrayal of classic literature as well as its authors in the case of Bungo Stray Dogs. And I just no. I mean, I guess it's kind of cute that they had Sherlock Holmes, quote unquote, delivering his deductions in a very poorly delivered Rakugo style that Watson just kind of goes along with. But other than that, it was just kind of like
I turned off this episode after half of its runtime.
Dang, I gave it more of a chance than you, apparently.
No, it's just nothing in this appealed to me. I didn't like the character designs, the jokes were not funny, and it was just boring to me. Like, I feel like this show was just completely appealing to a certain crowd that I'm not part of, which is maybe the hardcore Sherlock Holmes literary crowd that gets all the in-jokes and name references and whatever. I mean, I got some of them. I watched some Sherlock Holmes stuff. I watched the BBC show and some of the movies and whatever. But still, I read one or two of the famous stories, but still, it's like I'm not a hardcore Sherlock Holmes fan, and it feels like that show is playing around with the mythos of that character and making fun of it and also mixing it up and, you know, references, fan service, yada, 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 and nothing of that like hit any nerves for me. Like, it felt like I was watching something that was completely made not for me. And I was like, oh, no, I'm out. Like, hey, did you know Sherlock Holmes is quirky? Yeah, fuck. All right.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Can we move on?
Yes. Apparently not. At least not for the first, 10 minutes. I was like, God, this is tiring. No. So, yeah, that's my only surefire nope for this season. And, yeah, I think you felt the same. It seems like you felt the same.
Yeah,
I mean, there's some there. You know, Japan has done some stuff with classic literature that I really appreciated. I fucking love Gankutsu, The Count of Monte Cristo. I think that's a fantastic reimagining of that story. It's fucking great. And there's some more. I think as a kid, I watched Treasure Island, which was a pretty faithful adaptation of that story. I like that. There are a bunch of classic literature adaptations, especially as a kid, as I watched that I loved the World Masterpiece Theater stuff and all of that. But this, and like you mentioned, Bungo Stray Dogs is like, yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, back when it was new, I didn't get interested in Gankutsuo, but part of me kind of wants to revisit it and see what I'd think about it now. Because speaking of retellings of classic literature, in high school, I don't know if I've told this story before. In high school, we had to watch the Romeo and Juliet movie with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes. Okay.
And at the time, I was kind of like, meh, whatever. And then I watched it again in college, and I was like, oh, you know what? This is actually a really cool, reimagining and retelling of it. Yeah, okay. And I'm not a Shakespeare guy. I can't stand Shakespeare, to be perfectly honest with you. But after rewatching it, I was like, you know what? I was a stupid kid. I mean, I'm still stupid, but hey. Time changes perspectives, so I wouldn't. Maybe at some point I'll try rewatching Gankutsuo and see how I feel about it.
I definitely want to do it. Like, at the beginning, I was a bit weirded out by the completely alien style that it used with the weird background filters and everything. Yeah. But over time, that show completely grew on me, and its main protagonists and everything, and it's fucking dark as hell revenge story, and the Count of Monte Cristo in that show is a completely different character from the Count of Monte Cristo in the classic story. the way he is framed and everything, and it's like it makes something completely different out of that story, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I definitely want to revisit it too. So yeah, like we said, there's some good stuff out there in terms of what Japan anime does with classic literature adaptations, but this is not one of those, in my opinion. So pass. All right, we talked way too much about the show that we're not gonna watch. What is the other one that you're not gonna watch that we maybe will talk too much about?
I mean, I have two other surefire drops. I think one of them might be a maybe for you, but we'll see. My other drop is Val X Love.
Nope, not watch that.
Takuma Akutsu has been branded an Akuma, it's in his name, or a devil, for his entire life because of his scary face, which he just developed a huge physique to match. Classmates would rather throw themselves out a window than face his imagined displeasure. And now things are even worse. A series of gruesome crimes have been taking place at night in his neighborhood, and people are willing to believe that he's the villain behind what have been dubbed Akuma-caused crimes. This high school student would really rather just focus on studying at home by himself, but that's not going to happen because he's been chosen by Odin to help stop the destruction of the world by helping to raise the levels of the Valkyries of Valhalla, who take on the form of 9 beautiful girls and women. They're powered up by being in love, and since their all-father has determined that Takuma is to be his lover, his peaceful days are still far from becoming This is trash. It's trash.
You already lost me. like half of that plot. I was like, oh my god, is this a fucking garbage harem thing?
Yes. I was like, why did I even check this out? I don't know. I guess I was curious.
The girls looked hot.
I guess the girls looked all right. I have to check myself in real time. Okay, the music was done by Techno Boys Polcraft Green Fund, and I love their music.
Oh, yeah.
Who is it? And now I have to fact check myself to see who it was directed by. You know what? It doesn't matter. The show's trash. Don't watch it.
Okay.
I got through the first episode, and I was just like, all right. Bye. So my other drop was Special 7.
Oh yeah, that's one of my maybes. But I'm bordering on drop there as well. It's just like, yeah. It's like Lovecraft and Blood Blockade Battlefront. This is set in a normal human city. The humans share with a bunch of fantastical beings like elf and vampires, right?
Kind of.
Yeah, I think that's how it's set up. And
it revolves around some guy named Seiji Nanatsuki. Do you get it? 7's in his name. Do you get it?
Yes.
He's caught up in what would become known as an infamous terrorist attack, rescued by a police officer, which inspired him to help become one himself. Also, the other cop is voiced by the Kenjiro Tsuda, who voices the main character in Copcraft. So he went from one character to exactly the same character.
But not... He's in fucking everything right now. He's almost in every fucking show I'm watching. I hear that fucking voice because it's a very distinctive voice.
I mean, I love Kenjiro Tsuda.
Yeah, me too. It's like, but he is in a show we're gonna review later today. He is in Fire Force. He is in a bunch of other stuff. It's ridiculous. It's like every time he pops up, Kenjiro, you're back.
It's so weird because I think one of his earliest roles was Seto Kaiba, and then he went on to just blow up and get a ton of roles. But the guy who played Yugi, that's all he's done is Yugi, which is weird.
Yeah,
but I think he might have done a lot of live action stuff. So
it's weird, but
yeah. Nothing. I'm not even going to read the rest of the summary I wrote down. Nothing about this show really stood out to me. It felt like it wanted to be Ghost in the Shell with bits of Copcraft and whatever sprinkled in, and I was just sort of like, all right.
It felt very stiff. It felt like not only the animation, but the direction, everything felt just so bland and, I don't know, boring looking, and the plot setup seems pretty standard. In general, it's iffy. Like, I like the setup, I liked some of the characters, but it's like, I don't know. It's like you have to do a lot more legwork to convince me to watch your show, because what you're offering right now is not super enticing. I see seeds of interesting stuff there, but I don't know if you actually are going to do something with that.
I mean, I think the bank robbery was kind of funny because they're like, no cops. Oh, we've got 2 cops in here. Oops.
Yeah. So.
But besides that, it was kind of like, all right,
yeah.
Psycho-Pass is coming up. We'll try to check that out instead.
Yeah. And I got other shows with investigators, or at least one other show with investigators in my lineup as well. So maybe that will be enough. All right. I guess that's it for your nopes and my first maybe and my nopes. Okay. Right. Then maybe you should continue with your first maybe.
Sure. How about Azur Lane?
Sure.
So, this is based on a gacha game. I mean, it's a game that I play sort of on and off, so I was just sort of interested to see how they would adapt it into anime form. Boiling it down, it's all about anthropomorphic ship girls. It feels like the more interesting version of Kantai Collection to me because,
That's what that other show was called. I was trying to think of it. Wasn't there a show like that before?
Yeah. But Kantai Collection, the anime got licensed, but the game never got brought over. It was weird, man. I don't know. Azur Lane revolves around basically these anthropomorphic ship girls who are fighting off these aliens called the Sirens and to help try and restore peace to the world. But when 2 of the factions, the Sakura Empire and the Iron Bloods, decide to take some of the Siren technology for their own, they form their own Red Axis, as it's called. There's some very, very real-world parallels there. So the Eagle Union and the Royal Navy team up together to form the Azur Lane to fight back against the Sakura and Iron Blood factions. And, I mean, the production values on the show are at least pretty decent because the battles in the first couple episodes looked really good. So they're at least doing that much justice for it. And my big maybe about this show, and I'm going to echo a little bit of what Jeff Thu said, they're throwing every waifu at the screen about as quickly as they possibly can, which, yeah, you can't pack it so densely. You gotta lead into it, man. You gotta take it slow. So, oh, there's my favorite character, and then they're gone next week. Oh no. Oh,
but John, everyone is here.
Pretty close. But I mean, I'm at least interested to see where it goes because it seems like it's trying. The game itself doesn't really have a whole. It has, an overarching plot that's somewhat similar to the show. It's kind of branched off and doing a little bit of its own thing, but it doesn't have a ton of characterization, which it seems like the series is trying to do. So maybe it'll be good. I don't know. We'll see if I stick with it. All I know is Belfast is best ship girl. You can't convince me otherwise.
Belfast. Are there any girls with famous Japanese battleship names? Is there a Yamato girl?
Not that we've seen, not in the show yet, but we've seen stuff like Shokaku, Zuikaku, Akagi, Kaga. I could probably rattle off a whole bunch of them. It's obvious who each faction is supposed to be if you just look at the names and the iconography on them. Like the Iron Blood big flagship character that they introduced pretty early on is Prince Eugen. So,
okay.
So,
I get it.
So, but
all
yeah,
right.
I mean, Azur Lane as a game is neat. It's fun. As a show, hopefully it'll be good. We'll see. I don't know. That remains to be seen. My next maybe is Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise. And I know it sounds weird coming from me for it to be a maybe.
I was about to say. I mean, you weren't as hot on the first Build Divers compared to Builders, but still, you liked that show, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because Build Fighters and Build Fighters Try were awesome, and they were exciting, and Build Divers was kind of like, all right.
Huh?
Okay, so Build Divers Re-Rise takes place 2 years after the whole electronic life form diver incident from the first series. That is to say, the AI character that appeared named Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an event that, if you watch the show, pretty much almost destroyed the infrastructure of Gundam Battle Nexus Online until it was resolved by the force group known as the Build Divers.
Mm-hmm.
So a new version of the game was rolled out to prevent the same incident from happening again, and a whole bunch of new players join in. And our story focuses on Hiroto Kuga, a high school who is a rogue mercenary diver for hire who goes in the game being hired by other forces and divers without being affiliated with them, so he can make his own cheddar in game. Despite his solo diver status and always wandering alone in the game, he yearns for a day where he can find a childhood friend that he befriended several years ago. But after finding a special request mission with this other weird motley crew that he runs across, they form a new force group called Build Divers. Except the name is all in caps except for the I. That means it's a different name.
Oh God.
So they are, they join together to compete in the GBN game space and blah, 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 blah. And oh my God, Hiroto is boring. I don't like him. One of the other main characters is this guy, Kazami. You can call him leader or captain. And I have Justice Knight Gundam. Shut up. He's annoying as hell and I hate him. The other two main characters are sort of there. I don't know if I'm going to stick with this, man. Everything about this screams, no, don't do it. It's not good. But it's got the Gundams and the model kits, and then it's exciting. And
so does the animation at least look good? Like
yes.
Sunrise putting some effort into this.
Yeah, I mean, it's at least got that much going for it. It's got the cool kit bashed mobile suits that look neat and sure. I mean, apparently it's being headed up by a branch of Sunrise called Sunrise Beyond, which this is their first proper animation production. They've done a whole lot of other in-betweens and keys for other shows, but this, I guess they opened a new studio or something purely for this. So shrug. I don't know. But, as far as I can tell, it does seem like it has, the Sunrise quality that, we've come to expect from older Gundam. So, I don't know. I'll see if the plot goes places. I mean,
All right. We'll see. I mean, maybe it will convince you yet.
We'll see.
Okay.
So, what do you got for us?
One of my maybes is Rise Up Animal Road.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's a maybe for me as well, but it's goofy, and I love it. Yeah,
it's about a pro wrestling furry, I guess. So this is an isekai show, and the guy who gets transported to a different world this time around is a pro wrestler who loves anime, right? Who loves animals, maybe a bit too much. Even one of I think the ring announcer says that. Here's the guy that loves animals, maybe a bit too much. Animal face or whatever he's called.
I guess you could describe him as having a very childlike admiration for animals.
If you want to be nice, you can call it that. If you want to be mean, you can call him a pervert, which most of the people in this show do actually. I guess mostly because he runs around in underwear and, the fantasy realm that he gets transported to, they are not really familiar with that, or whatever a pro wrestler might be. So he gets transported there, and the princess of the country who summoned him there asks him to get rid of all of demon beasts roaming around in the countryside because they are dangerous and whatever and ugly. I don't know. And our main character is appalled by that because he loves all animals and suplexes the princess. German suplexes the princess.
So good. You don't expect it.
So fucking good. I love that moment. This show is dumb as hell. And he goes on to befriend all the animals, be it like a weird beast man that tries to rob him, who he just basically tickles into submission, if you want to call it that. There's some wild imagery in this show that could be interpreted in various ways. And also he befriends a pack of Cerberuses and makes friends with that one wolf girl that also seems to be nice, but also a bit conniving and
she's just in it for the money, man.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, she's friendly and nice, and it's a cool cast. It's fun. I don't know if it will last me more than a couple of episodes because I feel like this show has exactly 2 gags that it's gonna ride into the fucking ground. And those are he's a wrestler running around in underwear and he loves animals way too damn much, which is saying a lot coming from me because I occasionally like to watch wrestling, and if you put a dog in front of me, I have to pet. There's no way around it. I have to pet. So I can relate to that guy, but it's a bit much. In every regard, this show is a bit much. Yeah. So I don't know if I'll stick around. I like what I've seen so far, at least most of it, but I don't know. There are so many shows this season, and comedies are usually the first things to go for me from my maybes list. That's just the way it is, because those are like, with a few exceptions, like, for example, what did we have? Chiyoskuru, for example. That was so funny to me that I just stuck with it. And some other examples. But haven't you heard I'm Sakamoto also really worked for me. But like I said, rarely happens. Comedy is not my go-to thing when it comes to anime, at least not when it's exclusively comedy, which this seems to be. I mean, there's a fantasy aspect too, and, action aspect, because as I've seen from some clips, there's a really good action, like wrestling action animation in this, which I was surprised by.
It was either in the second or third episode where he drop kicks an ogre in the face, and then they have this like crazy fight, and the animation is like, yo, check this shit out.
Yeah, good stuff. It's like, yeah, this is interesting. This is different from a bunch of other isekai stuff, and I think this is based on a book by this author who also wrote Konosuba. So good pedigree. I don't know if it will be enough to keep me around. We'll see. But it's a good start. So, yeah. John, what did you think about it?
I thought it was fun. I mean, again, it's a maybe, so I don't know how long we'll stick around, especially considering there is another isekai show that is also a maybe. I guess technically.
And another one that is technically an isekai show that is a reluctant keeper for both of us.
Yeah, about that. Let's talk about the other one that might stick around. We'll see. How about Cautious Hero? The hero is overpowered, but way too cautious. Mm-hmm. I tried to put in the same inflection as the Japanese title. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate the effort.
So, young goddess Restarte isn't sure if she's lucked out or not when she's chosen as the goddess in charge of finding a hero to save the S-ranked world Gia Brande. She's only summoned 5 heroes before, never for a world of this difficulty. Because of the prevalence and popularity of isekai novels in Japan, she decides to summon a Japanese hero to help her. Because, they get on board. They get on board with that real quick. Because they understand. They get it.
Yeah. They're familiar with this shit.
And she says as such in the first episode in so many words. It's great. She eventually stumbles across the stat sheet of one Seiya Ryuguin, who stands out not only for his unusual name, but his unusually high starting scores. Restarte quickly summons him, but it turns out that she really should have read the fine print, because Seiya may be powerful, but he's also overly cautious to a fault, refusing to even set foot in this new world until he's exercised his way to a higher level. When he won't eat the food that Restarte makes for him in case she might be trying to poison him, she realizes that she may be in trouble with this guy. I love this. It's stupid as hell. It takes Konosuba like one step further, because it's so low stakes for Seiya. Restarte says to him in so many words, "Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter whether or not you die here because you'll be returned to your home world. So what does it matter to him? No, he has to train and train and train and keep training until he's so obscenely overpowered that he's able to take out the first of the four demon lords that they encounter in a single swing of his sword. He's also the kind of hero that when they run across, a basic bitch little slime outside of town, he kills it with a finishing move straight away. And then another. And then another. And then another, because you have to make sure it's dead. It could come back. Who knows? I don't know. Do you know? So, I mean,
seems like a healthy, I don't know, attitude, at least when it comes to life expectancy.
Yes. I mean, this show, as far as I can tell, is exceptionally one note. But I want to see if it goes anywhere else, just because I like that Seiya doesn't trust Restarte at all. Not even one little bit. And Restarte is just trying so hard to make it work, and she can't. And she's like, listen, you're supposed to respect me. I'm a goddess. Why aren't you respecting me? I don't know, man. In a world of anime where you turn around and you find a different isekai on every street corner, it seems like at least some people are sort of dialing into that fatigue and saying, yes, this is dumb. Okay, let's make it dumber.
I've seen some screen grabs, and it seems at least the facial gesture game of this show is as class.
Yes. This is reaction image fodder. It's pretty strong.
Well, then I guess it at least will be useful for that. So do you think you'll keep it around, or?
Well, there's a reason to maybe. We'll see if it continues to be just as one note or if it gets better. I don't know. We'll find out.
All right. What's another maybe for you?
I don't know about this one, but I'm gonna file it under a maybe for now, and I'll talk about why. It's Granblue Phantasy Season 2.
Yeah.
I'm putting it mostly under maybe because the production from the first few episodes seems a bit rough.
Oh, that's a surprise. Considering that I think the first season looked really good, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the thing is, the first season looked good because it stayed with, like the original character designs from the game. And I know you weren't super keen about that at first, but I was like, yeah, it at least looks faithful to the art design that has been established. And then they come in with these almost like mid-aughts character designs that just
look a bit rough.
Yeah, I'm not sure about it.
It's a shame. Like I was kind of getting interested in Granblue again because I haven't watched the first season really, but then they brought out the game by Arxis, and I'm like, yeah, maybe there is something here. And if John says that second season is also good like the first one, I might actually go and check it out. But this is a step down in production quality. That's kind of a bummer.
I mean, maybe Mappa are just saving their budget for the big tentpole moments because. I mean, the animation.
Did Mappa do the first Granblue too, or was that
No, that was A1.
Yeah.
I guess Cygames, had enough money to throw at A1 to make them care to do their jobs, but I don't know. Maybe it'll get better as it goes on. But as far as plot goes, we're kind of picking up pretty close to where we left off from the first season. The crew catches wind of I almost said primal because that's what they're called in Final Fantasy XIV. They're called astrals in Granblue, the sort of summon beast god things, as it were. They get a request from the merchant Zero Cart to go check out this one island where a primal or astral, god damn it, might be involved. So they go there and they find remnants of the Empire with one of the generals, Pommern, who was pretty prevalent in the first season. And they take care of him, and they tame the Astral, and then they head off to Albion, which is like this big sword and swordcraft academy where one of Catalina's old classmates, Vera, is. But there's something sinister churning beneath the surface, even as the Empire offers a ceasefire to Gran and his crew. So who knows what that'll lead to?
It will lead to something.
As far as I can tell, where the story is on like the 3rd or 4th episode, it's like between chapters 17 and 20 of the game, and the game goes out to like 120 something chapters. So there's a lot of material to get through.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I mean, it's such as the nature of a mobile/browser game where you can just constantly update it with new content. So they'll have stories for decades to tell.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the story of Granblue, so hope that'll probably keep me on the hook for the rest of the season. I just hope the production gets a little better as it goes on.
Yeah, would be nice. Like I said, I'm tangentially interested in it, but I have to wait and see. If this second season delivers by the end, I might actually try to get into that series. Yeah.
All right, so what do you have for a maybe?
My next maybe is a No Guns Life. So this is a Madhouse show. And it's set in this kind of cyberpunkish universe where a lot of people got these physical function extension thing provided by a corporation called Berühren, so touch in German, mostly to use them in a big war that happened before all of this, before this show takes place. So all these people are basically cyborgs now, and they're called the Extended.
It's a good name, actually. I like that.
Yeah, and our main character is a hard-boiled detective called Juzo, who is called a Resolver, and his head is a revolver.
Yeah! I didn't watch this show, but I was like, you know what? This looks stupid enough for me to want to watch it, but there's so much other stuff.
Yeah, I know. But man, this show, holy shit, like... The pun game in this show in the first episode already is legendary. Like, he smokes all the time, so, he's literally a smoking gun.
God damn it.
He also has special permission to hunt down Renegade Extended because he is an overextended. It doesn't end, man. It doesn't end. Like, his strongest weapon and biggest weak point is the trigger on his gun head, and he will only let someone touch it who he has accepted. If you know what I mean. Yeah, subtle this show is not, but it's a lot of fun. It's grimy. It's like this this typical hard-boiled detective stuff like you would expect from something in the cyberpunk setting, like kind of Blade Runner-ish. And, it's already setting up, a pretty standard plot where it's like, yeah, Berühren is actually involved in some shitty experiments, and there's a kid basically dropped at Juzo's doorstep that he needs to protect and everything. So, we've seen this shit before, but, like, the designs are so fucking out there and crazy, and Juzo is a lot of fun. He's a guy with a fucking gun for a head. So
can we talk about the fact that Ju means gun in Japanese?
Of course it does. Of course. Like I said, even not only in visual stuff, the pun game is aces in this. So there we go. This is the show you can expect. This is going to be probably super dumb, but also a lot of fun. I don't know if, again, like with Animal World, if this fun will last me longer than 3 episodes. The animation is not that great, in my opinion. Like, I mean, Madhouse has been struggling for quite a while now. But this looks off. Just like what did we have in the previous season that both of us dropped? That mobile game adaptation. I forgot the name.
Oh, Afterlost.
Afterlost. Yeah, that also looked a bit off. And so does No Guns Life. It's like a bit janky here and there. It's like there's some cool designs, but some of the animation doesn't quite work out and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens, but I'm intrigued just because of the fucking characters and how ridiculous this fucking show seems. Like in all aspects. but it doesn't take itself seriously at all, so that's good. Yeah, I like what I saw. I'll see if I'll stick with it till the end. John, what's your next maybe?
Because I have to dive down the romance hole at least once. ORESUKI, are you the only one who loves me?
I expected this to be a keeper for you.
I don't... I like what it's doing, but I also kind of don't, because it has... The main character is problematic. But you know what? Everyone in this show is problematic for different reasons, so maybe that's fine.
I guess. I heard he is a real shitbag.
Yes. Amatsuya Kisaragi. Everyone in this show has a nickname because, of course, they do. Also known as Joro, has it all planned out in the privacy of his mind. He's going to have the perfect high school romantic comedy. To that end, he's got his perky childhood friend Aoi Hinata, hereafter known as Himawari, and the elegant student council president Sakura Aino, hereafter known as Cosmos, all lined up, and now all he has to do is wait for them to confess and take it from there. When the fateful weekend comes, he figures his nice guy act is completely paid off and it's all going to work out. And then both girls confess that they're in love with his best friend. Because they saw him putting on a tough face at a baseball game, but then he dropped the facade when he was in private afterward. So they saw how sensitive and kind he was. As if that's not bad enough, into the shambles that is his planned love life comes Sumireko Sanshokuin, also known as Pansy, the creepy library representative. It turns out that she's the one girl who likes him, but mostly because of his dark inner workings. This show, I like that it sort of takes the rom-com formula and inverts it. Because Masamune's Revenge kind of did it, but not everyone had an ulterior motive the way everyone does in this story. Because it turns out that Joro's childhood friend, Taiyo Oga, because his name is Taiyo, of course his nickname is Sun-chan.
All right.
Basically, it turned out that, hey, he was using his childhood friend in order to get close to the librarian girl. But, you know, blah, 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 blah. Nothing ever goes as planned because, fuck you, everyone has a plan to get back at everyone else.
Okay. It sounds like a bunch of assholes.
Yes. Yes, it does. And it is. It's a story about clearing up your misunderstandings with revenge.
Oh, God. Well... This could end up being like a fun, mean-spirited, cynical laugh fest. This could also end up being really tiring to watch.
Yeah, that's why it's a maybe for me. So I don't know. I guess I'll see where it goes, but it at least seems like it's well produced enough for, the first few episodes anyway. So it's got that going for it. We'll see. We'll see how it goes from there. I don't know. My next maybe Sword Art Online Alicization 2.
Is it a maybe, really?
It should be.
Be honest with yourself, John.
It should be a nope, but it's a keeper. So I'm putting in between and calling it a maybe. I'm compromising.
Yeah, maybe I should too. Yeah, I filed it under keepers because I hate myself, but it should. Yeah. A reluctant keeper against better judgment, let's call it that. Okay, but let's call it a baby for terms of sorting this thing, and
Time has passed since Kirito defeated the Pontifex, while Perculi seeks to rebuild and bolster the defenses of the human lands in anticipation of an assault by the forces of darkness. Alice fears for the catatonic Kirito's safety and so relocates to a cabin near Rulid. So now Kirito is a vegetable, not only in real life, but also in the game.
Yay! Can we now have really interesting characters, like be the focus of the story or something?
I want to quote Jeff Thew once again, where he said he felt very immersed by this first episode because it too made him want to feel like he was in a coma.
I I have to be honest with our audience. I've only watched episode 0 of this.
I didn't even watch that because wasn't it just a recap?
Well, there was some extended stuff where we finally learned how, actually Asuna came to be on board of that thing, like how she decided to.
But we saw that!
Well, we saw how she arrived there.
Oh, you're right.
We didn't see how she planned for that, how she actually learned what happened to Kirito and stuff. And you see that in this episode. But it's all stupid. So, as usual. And I forgot, how... I mean, it was a nice reminder how dumb the first part of Alicization was, because I had already suppressed the memories of a lot of this. I forgot what Alice was actually the acronym for and how dumb that was. Also,
oh my god, I forgot it was an acronym too. Oh no.
Yes. Also, that Raph did all this to basically build AI soldiers who can kill, but also have a conscience, ? And man, all the bad memories came flooding in, oh yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Did turn into a giant sword. Didn't imagine that. Carole didn't fight back against Admin because of plot contrivances. What a dumb show. Jesus fucking Christ. Let's see how dumb it gets in the second half. I just want to see the fucking pitfall, the fucking abyss that is opening up below us once we step over the line and start watching this show fully, and maybe some of that pain will ease through Great Sakuga. I don't know. At least that, in my opinion, the first season had at least some of that.
But so you see, Alice feels she can't swing her sword anymore except to cut down trees, but an attack on Rulid may force her to act anyway.
Okay. Sure. God,
that's what's your next maybe?
My last maybe is Phantasy Star Online episode Oracle. Phantasy Star Online 2 episode Oracle.
Yes.
Is that a keeper for you?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
But I think since this is the last maybe, so we can move on. Make this a keeper and a maybe, just like we did with Sora Art before.
And there's another show we're going to mention in a moment. So we're bridging the gap. We can
do that too. We're in the crossover section right now. We got some stuff that are keepers for me and maybes for John, and the other way around. So this is a keeper for John. This is a maybe for me. Yes, Phantasy Star Online 2 episode Oracle, which is the first Phantasy Star Online 2 anime that actually apparently tries to follow the plot of the fucking game.
It does! Holy shit, it's what PSO2 the animation should have been, and I'm actually really happy about that.
I've only seen the first episode, but it looks like fun. I really like the OP for the show, actually. I think it's pretty great.
As soon as I heard that song, and it's performed by, I believe, by one of the ladies who's done some of the song performances in the past. So it's yes, this is what a main theme for I almost said Persona, holy shit, for what Phantasy Star Online should sound like, because the intro theme for PSO2, the animation, was arguably the best part of the show, but it didn't have the same feeling that this new song, Destiny, has, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really remember the song for PSO2, the animation, right off the top of my head, but it's been a while since that thing. But like I said, I really like this one. It's one of the best ones this season. And yeah, this is just, for people who don't know what Phantasy Star Online is, it's one of the earliest MMO games, actually, kinda, even though you would only play with 4 people. At least the first one was.
Yeah,
on Dreamcast.
It was, they sort of kept the same sort of lobby thing in PSO2, but I feel like calling it massively multiplayer is sort of a misnomer, because it is what it is, though. Yeah,
mostly 4-player stuff. I don't know if there are raids or anything in this, but I have not played enough of Phantasy Star Online 2 to fully make a competent judgment in that regard, because Phantasy Star Online so far has really only been available, at least on home console and PC, in Japan. There are some fan service and fan translation efforts, but they're not finished and perfect and everything.
Yeah,
but
that's what's kind of held me back from playing, because I know the ARCS project exists. I think that's what it's called. But it doesn't really work perfectly on the PC client, but we're getting a localization next year.
Yes, so I guess this is the perfect time to put this show out there as a cross promotion with the soon to be released Western version of the game. After how many years does that game exist now? 8 or so? I don't know.
It
6?
Came out in 2012.
Well, there you go. So 7 years. Jesus Christ. Okay, but yeah, so this is basically about a bunch of people in spaceships, in a colony of spaceships, flying around the universe and finding new planets, basically. And like, I don't know, are some people settling down there, or is it just to get the resources and stuff and catalog the planets? What is the actual goal of ARCS? I don't remember.
Oh, as far as I knew, ARCS was just the organization was like basically a universe patrol, and the big thing they were hunting down were the creatures known as the foul spawn, which is a name they seem to sort of come up with for the translation, because in Japanese they're called the Darkers.
Yeah.
But that name aside, it's just there to get rid of this evil scourge that just sort of seems to pop up in places.
Foulspawn is kind of a clever name, considering that the big bad of Phantasy Star in general is Dark False. So
that's true.
False, Spawn, it works.
And I mean, as I understand it, episode Oracle is supposed to cover the first 3 episodes of the game. So, and at first I was a little worried, because I was like, if it's like 12 episodes, it's going to be super cramped. But it's going to be like 24, 25 episodes. So they'll have some time to let the story breathe, which I was sort of like, whew, about.
There might be coming another season down the line. You never know.
That's true, because well, I mean, there's also episodes 4, 5, and 6 launched not too long ago, so they have plenty of story to build off with that as well.
Yeah. And I'm interested. I also want to get into the game once the Western release comes over here. But, this anime is a nice start, and I mean, it's a solid looking show, which is surprising considering it's coming from Gonzo. Who are still using the fucking low-res logo animation.
Oh my god, So I started watching the first episode, and I was like, wait, did I change my resolution settings to 1080p? And then the Funimation logo comes up, and it's full HD, and I'm like, oh, okay, Gonzo, we're just, okay, all right.
They're still running around in 360p or 480p land. God damn it.
I'm just super glad that this show is doing the game the service that the first series didn't, because the first series was like, isn't this game cool to play? Fuck you. I want a show about the story of the game.
Yeah.
So I'm glad episode Oracle exists, and it seems like from the first few episodes, like they're, handling it really well. So I'm excited for more of it, because I've always loved Phantasy Star, and, this will be a good primer for people who haven't played the game for when it gets localized next year. And yes. Let's go.
Me too. I'm excited. I don't know about the characters yet. I've only watched the first episode. I'm like, okay, I hope. I mean, there's some interesting ones here and there, but main character seems a bit by the numbers and everything. So I see.
The main character is you, the player character.
Yeah, that's what I expected. But that also might bring some problems with it, considering if they actually put some effort to make him his own character, or just try to keep in a blank slate to make him a self-in thing like they did in the game. So it's like, yeah, okay, we'll see. And also, dude, no Hugh cast gunslinger in the main group. I'm appalled, John. Appalled.
Well,
I will not accept this.
Well, we do made a Hugh cast gunslinger a couple episodes after.
Mm-hmm.
And she...
Not in the main group.
Oh boy, Lisa, she has a personality, that is for sure.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited. I'm excited to get to know her. But yeah, it looks like a fun series. But, we know the curse of video game anime adaptations.
I mean, the last
They
one that
don't always work out.
the last one that Gonzo worked on was
Akiba Strip?
Yeah, Akiba Strip. And that was actually really fun and really well. I mean, it was fun and it didn't follow any of the games, but it was still, it had a lot of the same general imagery and callbacks, and it was really shockingly well produced. So I have faith. I have faith they can pull this off.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, at least I think so too. And since we are still in crossover zone, I'm going to continue with one of my keepers. That's also one of John's maybes, and that's BEASTARS. This is basically basically Disney's Zootopia, only darker.
You're not wrong. I didn't even think of that.
It's set at the school, and all the characters are animals. And we got this pretty clear divide between carnivores and herbivores. And the show's already going heavy on the themes like prejudice, like carnivores are prejudiced against because they are meat eaters, and when a class member, when a student gets killed, immediately like, oh, he got eaten by a carnivore, like they are all the same, like stuff like that. So how carnivores are treated by society, you can draw some parallels to certain groups of people in real life. And then we also got a bit of racism / classism in here with one of the characters, the rabbit this group, or one of the rabbits, how she is treated because she's of lower class and everything. There's a lot, pretty thick subtext here, which is not even subtext, it's text. Right? It's just told through animals, which is exactly what Zootopia did as well. Only this has a much more darker tone to it. It's got a more ominous aura. It's got a clear horror vibe, and it is full CG. This show is done by Orange, and as usual, they try to adapt this in the style of traditional animation to CG, like this combination. And it looks good as long as it's fluid, but a lot of times that means they are also trying or are also using limited stuttery frame rates, and that just never looks good in CG, in my opinion.
That's why it's holding it back from being a keeper for me.
Yeah, I understand. Like, there are only products that are hyper stylized like this or Into the Spider-Verse can get away with it to a certain extent. But if they did a version of this or Spider-Verse with a consistent fluid frame rate, I'm certain everyone would agree that it looked better. Still, in my opinion, this is tolerable, just like their previous show, Land of the Lustrous, which had the same kind of animation and style. And there were parts of it, especially some of the battles, that were like these amazingly choreographed action scenes and were super fluidly animated. So I expect BEASTARS will have some of that too. Maybe not battles per se, but, just moments of great fluid CG character animation. And in general, like, the character designs are super striking. And like I said, the story got this ominous mood and everything. And this great mystery right from the get-go, like this whodunit thing, and a cool main character. And yeah, I was just completely pulled in by this show for one reason or another. It was just like, hey, this is some cool, unusual shit. This is like, you don't see stuff like that in anime. I mean, some people might cry, oh, furry bait, but I don't think so. And everything else feels just super interesting and fresh. And the OP is also really creative.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Right?
I love the stop motion animation, the song, the dance number.
And talk about dark shit. Man, I like everything I've seen so far about the show, except for maybe parts of the animation. But I'm willing to, put that aside for now and just enjoy what else the show has to offer. Fantastic soundtrack as well. It's just like everything else about the show seems to be fucking amazing. That's why I wished it would be done in traditional animation, and it would probably be my number one fucking show this season. Or at least that's what I assume. But so far, it's at least a keeper for me, because I want to see where this story grows, where these characters go, because everything about this is super intriguing, and I'm looking forward to more.
The only other problem is that it's also in streaming jail.
Yeah, Netflix jail. That's a bummer. Nobody will talk about the show. So yeah, fuck Netflix. I mean, it's a shame the show deserves attention, especially because it's something you don't see that often, or haven't seen before in that way. And people should see it and watch it. But currently, no one can, and no one will talk about it. Maybe once it then is released to Netflix, but then new shows will be out, and probably, I mean, it's the same for every Netflix show. Like, nobody talks about them when they come out. Like, there are some people who talked about the show that we're going to talk about later in our review. But, that would have been a much bigger thing if that aired on Crunchyroll or Funimation or whatever, High Dive, something that does weekly streaming. And it's a shame. Netflix should finally fucking get it. Understand that we want to watch those fucking shows on a weekly basis.
I mean, they said they wanted to dedicate themselves to doing that, but
yeah, they said that like a fucking 2 seasons ago or something, and they still haven't done it.
Yeah, that's the problem. They said it, but
yeah,
come on, guys, you gonna do it? You can do it.
Nah. So fuck it. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with it, and we're most definitely gonna talk about it come our reviews. I don't know how long the show is running, if it's a 1 or 2 season core, but 2 core season, but whatever, we'll see. Anyway, John, what's your next keeper?
I'm gonna go with Fate Grand Order Absolute Demonic Front Babylonia. I didn't write down the whole name, but I believe that's it.
I think that's it, yes.
So, we're jumping back into another gacha game adaptation.
Hooray.
So, this is about how in the future, I believe the future is 2016 or 2017. Where human history has basically been eradicated. So there's this complex called Chaldea that has been undertaking a plan called the Grand Order, whereby the world's last master, this boy Ritsuka Fujimaru, and his demi-servant Mash Kyrielite have been transported back in time to 6 singularities to recover the Holy Grail sustaining them and thus restore humanity's lost future. Now Ritsuka and Mash are ready to take on the final singularity, Uruk, in ancient Babylon. And upon arriving there, they encounter a demon beast and a strange woman. It's Ishtar, with incredible powers, and she won't even tell them her name. She just told you, so whatever. Then they encounter Enkidu, the legendary companion of Gilgamesh, who fills them in on the 3-goddess alliance seeking to eradicate humanity and the last-ditch defense humanity has developed against the ravaging demon beasts, the wall called the Absolute Demonic Front. So it's weird because this is the second FGO adaptation, but it's the final part of the base game before they rolled out the update that please don't crucify me, internet. I believe it was called Epic of Remnant. The first adaptation was of the first singularity in Fuyuki, which was basically the game's tutorial. So if you want to get your primer on the overarching story, you can watch that. It's like an hour and a half long, and then you could pretty much jump straight into this because a lot of the singularities in between are sort of, I don't know, for a couple of other friends who have played the game, the most interesting ones are like the first and the final one. Whoops.
Okay. Well, and we get an anime of that, so I guess that's fine.
Yeah, we're going to get 2 movies, I think, of Camelot. Because I'm going to try and rack my brain a little bit. I believe the singularities are Fuyuki. This isn't in order, mind you. America, Camelot, of course, Babylon, Septum, and I can't remember the other 2 off the top of my head. But obviously it's different points in history. So, sort of seeing that play out is neat. And they sort of, in the first couple episodes of this, as well as the episode 0 before the show started airing, sort of wink and nod and say, yeah, we know there's those other parts, so we will at least acknowledge they exist. So that much is fine. Cloverworks fucking killing it on the first couple episodes, though,
no
man.
Kidding. Holy shit. It looks extremely good.
Yeah, the fight choreography is nuts.
Yeah, I think some of the same people that worked on Promised Neverland work on this as well. There's some overlap there. I don't know what exactly. I think one of the animation directors worked on all of Promised Neverland, and that was an extremely good looking show. So yeah, they definitely got some capable people on this. Phoenix Wright, this is not.
No.
And yeah, it's good stuff. Like, I am not familiar with Fate Grand Order at all. I have no idea who these versions of these characters got. Like, the goddess we meet, or whoever it is, Ishtar or whatever, looks like Tosaka. So okay.
Yes.
All right.
I mean,
guess it's an ancestor or something.
The cool thing about Grand Order is that you kind of get to see these characters as they were before they became heroic spirits, and I feel like that is going to be the appeal of
the main draw
of this.
Yeah, seeing Gilgamesh already in not asshole hero spirit mode was interesting enough. Might be a much more sympathetic character than he was in every other incarnation of Fate so far. So we'll see how that plays out.
There's a little bit of mixing timelines together, though, because for some reason Merlin is there, all right, but they explain away that he sort of exists in all timelines because magic.
Yeah. That's how he got himself summoned as a heroic spirit, because it was at a time where he was technically not alive yet. He's technically dead, so he can be summoned as a heroic spirit. It's really dumb and also really clever at the same time, so I guess it works. But yeah, it was fun. And like you said, the animation is fucking ridiculously good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've watched this completely out of order. Like, I watched the first 2 episodes, then you told me that there was like episode 0, and that is set before the First Order OVA special thing. So I watched episode 0 now, and I need to still watch First Order and then continue with, Absolute Demonic Front. But I think I got my head wrapped around the plot so far. It's actually, it's so far it's somewhat free of the usual Nasuverse techno slash mage babble.
Yeah,
it's pretty straightforward in terms of plot stuff.
It is surprisingly less convoluted than Fate normally is.
Which is weird, considering how many fucking characters there are probably gonna be and are in that version.
Yes, there are. So. Well, you were asking me, who's the Saber of Babylon? And I was like, who, in Grand Order, who isn't Saber?
Yeah, well, I'll see. I mean, I can assume who the Saber in Camelot is, but still. Yeah, interesting. Just, this is gonna be probably watch it mostly purely for the animation thing, but also, fun action things. So, yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah, let's go on with my next keeper, which is a reluctant one, because it's the 3rd season of 7 Deadly Sins, Wrath of the Gods.
Really?
And this would be a surefire keeper if A1 was still working on this show. But sadly, the show switched to Studio Dean.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
And as expected, they phoned it in. They fucking phoned the shit of it. They phoned it the shit in. As usual, even the OP mostly consists of scenes from the first episode.
Oh, I hate that.
It's so sad. Like, blood, gore, and wounds are suddenly censored. Why?
What?
Yeah, maybe it runs on a different TV channel or earlier in the day. I don't know. But that never was a problem the first 2 seasons. And now suddenly all the blood, gore, and wounds are suddenly white instead of red. It's dumb. Or just fucking blacked out. White blood and the wounds are blacked out. It's dumb. And I'm not gonna drop the show now, but the step down in quality sure is a disappointment. Like, everything about this looks so fucking lackluster. Like, A1, say about them what you will, some of that animation was also spotty. It was the same in Magi and everything. But every other episode or something, you had a great Sakuga moment. And definitely that happened in Seven Deadly Sins, and especially in the second season. I don't expect that to happen in the third season. Like, if the first episode is supposed to be like the episode where, you know, you get reintroduced to these characters and some cool shit gets, you know, happens on screen to pull you in, nothing in this first episode looked really appealing or someone actually putting in the extra work or stuff like that. I don't want to, like, be super down on the people who actually had to work on this show, but it feels like there was not as much passion and talent behind this as it was when A1 worked on it, and that's a shame. It's like, yeah, okay, this looks serviceable. Like, the backgrounds are good, the character designs are sharp, they look pretty much just like they looked before. That's fine. The actual animation, though, it's like, it feels like there's no real heart in it, or, you know, I don't know. There's no real drive in it. It just feels like so standard fare, so, I don't know. Like I said, phoned in. Like, yeah, okay, we have to do a Seven Deadly Sins show, so we're gonna do a Seven Deadly Sins show. And that's it. And that's a disappointment. I really liked the first 2 seasons of that show. I thought it was a neat shonen thing with a lot of cool characters in it, and it bums me out that this is probably not gonna get... I mean, the manga is still running, so there's probably, if this season is successful as well, it's probably gonna run for more seasons. So maybe it will be given back to A1 again. Crazier things have happened. But this season will probably be not as visually interesting. And considering what has been building up story-wise, if they go to that now in this season, that would be, man.
It sucks because we know Dean can do good work. It's just when they choose to.
Yes. And, you know, like I said, it's serviceable. It's just like with One Punch Man Season 2. It's just like, yeah, this might be fine if we didn't have a better show before this.
I mean, if the bar weren't so high.
Yeah, and it's not as high with, you know, the previous seasons of Seven Deadly Sins compared to this one as it was with One Punch Man Season 1 compared to One Punch Man Season 2. It's not as wide of a gap in quality, but it's still there. Mm-hmm. So, and it's noticeable. And like, immediately. Like I said, the OP, the animation, the episode, everything in that show oozes like half-heartedness. And that's a shame.
That sucks.
Yeah, it kind of does, but I'm still going to watch it because, you know, I started this and I'm going to finish this. So, there you go. A show that doesn't phone it in, which looks amazing, is the second season of Legends of the Galactic Heroes, the Neue These.
Oh, I didn't realize that came back.
Yes, it did. It picks up immediately where season 1 left off, where one of the main characters, Yang Wen Li, pulled back his fleet into an asteroid field, and it's being encircled by the Imperial ships, led by the other main character and antagonist, Reinhard von Lohengrin. Well, they're both the main protagonists. It's not really like super clear-cut good or bad thing here, although you would tend to, you know, more root for the Federation and everything. But, you know, there are assholes on that side as well. The first season made that pretty clear, and actually one of those assholes who is like this sneaky, slimy background, conniving, opportunist politician is now in charge of the Federation, because a lot of shit happened since the Imperial forces basically almost stumped them out in this giant battle in the first season. And some people had to step down because of that, and that played into his cards. And we'll see how things go from here. But yeah, it's just fucking goes from 1 to 11 again. Like, Wang Li managed to escape by like unleashing this ultimate space baller move by using these giant asteroids as shields in front of the ships, mounted them to the ships and just plows through the blockade of Imperial ships. It's badass. And like, this show is so good at displaying these fucking enormous space battles with just thousands of ships, like fucking shooting millions of lasers and rockets at missiles at each other. It's crazy. Like CG used to like the best effect that it can be used to, just putting a fucking bunch of machines on screen that shoot at each other. And it's great. And I'm really interested to see where the political stuff will go and where the character stuff will go. The only problem is what I call the curse of watching too much anime struck again. Legend of the Galactic Heroes cast is ridiculously large, and I barely remember any of those characters.
Oh boy.
Or the details of the previous season, really. Some of it, but, you know, especially when it comes to the characters and character development, I only really remember what young Wenli and Reinhard were about, and his adjutant Kircheis. Which isn't to say that those were unmemorable characters or anything, far from it, but there is just not enough free room in this old noggin up here to store all of this for longer than maybe 3 months or something. There was already so much military tactics and space stuff, and the show is as visually impressive as ever, of course, that I have no reason not to watch it. It's really interesting. It's a really grounded sci-fi that you don't really get to see in that kind of quality, in my opinion, these days. And I really dug it. I dig that series. I loved the first season, and I'm definitely gonna finish that second season. And if I, have to get refamiliarized with some of the characters, I'm just gonna look up the episode summaries of season 1 on Wikipedia or something. But so far, like the first 2 episodes I watched, I was like, hey, okay, I get where this is going, and I knew what the main characters were about, and that shall suffice for now. But this is really good sci-fi stuff with cool characters and interesting political stuff going on. And looking forward to more. All right, what is your next keeper, John?
My next, I think, is one that we're both watching. Well, both of my final keepers, I think, are ones that we're both watching. But I will go with the 4th season, technically 5th, of Food Wars.
Yes, the 4th plate.
Yes. So we picked up right exactly where we left off at the end of the 3rd plate, part 2, with the big team Shokugeki between the rebels who are trying to take down the Elite 10 and Azami Nakiri. And there's all sorts of delicious ass looking food getting slung around again, and it's making me want to go back to New York for more of that ramen we had.
It's an alligator butchered live on stage.
Yes, Rindo
Shit got fucking real.
Yeah, Rindo was like, "Hey, I'm gonna cook this alligator." Excuse. Oh, okay.
Jeez, I did not expect that. I was like, "Oh, okay, she got an alligator." Wait, what? Wait, is she gonna? Okay. Oh, shit! This is explicit. All right, sure.
I mean, she prides herself as taking on exotic ingredients, and an alligator is pretty exotic.
Yeah, she's a rare ingredients master and a knife expert, and she knows how to handle both. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's the usual. It's fucking Food Wars. Like, there's already so much stuff in the first episode that made me laugh. Like Soma getting metaphorically punched in the gut by a loaf of bacon.
Yes,
is exactly what I want from this show and what I look forward to seeing more of. Like all the ridiculous fucking visual metaphors of the, that serve as the replacement for the characters trading actual blows, like with their fists. But now we get like them throwing food at each other. And there's more ridiculous stuff even in that first episode that I'm not going to mention here. But holy shit. There's like right back in. It's like, yeah, okay. Thank you, Food Wars. I'm back in. I don't. You got me. I am looking forward to seeing where this goes, and I hope they fucking kick Azami's ass in this season. Erina's shitty dad needs to go down.
Get him out.
Get him out. Throw him the fuck out. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Food Wars is amazing, and you were partially not as keen on the second part of the 3rd season as I was, I think.
I think it was because here's the end. What? Huh?
Yeah.
And the fact that the production values for the show seem to be on sort of a roller coaster.
Yeah, we'll see how that pans out in this season. So far as it looks solid, but might go down a bit and up again. We'll see. And I I've heard some people I think the manga is wrapping up or just has wrapped up, and some people are not as happy with the ending. So we see where that goes. I can't tell yet. I mean, I've not read the manga, but I hope I will look at it differently once the show wraps up. And I don't even know if the fourth season will cover all of the rest of the manga. I kind of doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt it too.
We're probably gonna get a fifth blade. But I'm looking forward to this fourth season, and I bet it's gonna be a lot of fun, a lot of cool food battles, fights.
I mean, if nothing else, the food always looks delicious.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, what do you have for another keeper?
Yeah, well, we kind of made a mistake, John, because I got so many keepers left that I'm probably gonna be talking for a while. Oh. Usually this works out some way, but if you say you have only one keeper left, I know what that keeper is gonna be.
Yeah.
So we gotta keep that for last. All right. Okay, here we go.
I misunderstood. I thought we were getting close to the end. My bad.
No. Far from it, man. Far from it. All right. So my next keeper is Ahiru no Sora. Which will help me get my Shonen Sports anime action fix until the main dish arrives next year in the form of the new season of Haikyuu. Hashtag hype for Haikyuu. So it's about a small dude, like Haikyuu, who gets always beaten up by stronger guys, kinda, because he's not afraid to stand his ground, but he is just not physically gifted, I guess, in that regard, or strong, whatever. But he's into basketball, and he wants to join the basketball club at his new school. The problem is, as he finds out, that basketball club consists entirely of delinquents. Like rough and tough assholes. So none of the other team members really want to play basketball. They just had to join some kind of club due to school regulations, or so they say. Of course, some of them really want to, deep down. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fun. Sora, the main character, baits them into a 5-on-1 competition to join the team. So if he beats all of them, he is allowed to join the team. And man, that kid has moves. He's also a super sympathetic character. And totally reminds me of Ippo from Hajime no Ippo. Like, just being the super sweet guy that has the guts to stand the ground, even if he's not his ground, even if he's not as physically gifted. The others on his team being kind of jerks with hearts of gold. And I love Hajime no Ippo, and this is giving me the Ippo vibes. So, yeah, I gotta watch this. It's also really well animated. And, yeah, it's also really fucking funny. Like, the jokes, visual gags, all the jokes in the show are fucking aces. Like, I laughed a lot when I watched this. It's really, really well done. It's well animated, got a good soundtrack. We got already some well-staged emotional scenes and some already good groundwork laid for developing some of the characters. It's super good sports anime stuff. I did not know anything about the show before, but I love what I saw in the first 2 episodes. And I hope the show can keep up this momentum. For now, I'm ready to watch some b-ball, baby! And yeah, nothing more to say about this one. It's fantastic. It's basketball and a lot of fun characters. And yeah, I want to see more. All right. Next is Babylon, which is the other show I mentioned before that has has investigators in them, and is a lot better than Special 7, apparently, I guess. So this is about a team of public prosecutors who investigate a mysterious death and stumble across a conspiracy that is somehow connected to a new district built in the city. So there's some weird things going on there, and some things happening with drugs, and some weird woman is involved too, and yeah, a lot of weird, dark shit happening, and it seems in the beginning like a very dry political procedural, but the mystery is interesting and the show looks really sharp. And I assume there is something crazier lurking beneath the surface here. In fact, I know there's something crazier lurking beneath the surface because at the end of the 3rd episode, there's some really crazy shit happening that I did not expect. And yeah, I like everything in that show pulled me in to the screen. It's like, holy fucking shit, like the atmosphere, the dense atmosphere, the plot twists, and yeah, I really don't want to say a lot about this because there are already a bunch of interesting twists and turns like in the first 3 episodes that are worth experiencing on your own. But I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, so I'm definitely going to keep watching. This is a really good-looking, really thrilling show, and yeah, I want to see where it goes. It's good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
I sort of saw the name of the show thrown around, but I didn't really look it up. So it was kind of weird because there's this, and then there's FGO Babylonia. Yeah. So for me, I was like,
2
wait,
Babel
what?
shows. Yeah, but it's a completely different thing.
Yeah,
it's not very action heavy, but this is a really dark thriller with a heavy focus on psychological horror, thrill, drama, I would say. So yeah. Really good stuff. I recommend you everyone checking it out. But I'm definitely going to talk about it once we get to the actual review down the road. Yeah. 2 more shows. Well, with John's keeper, it's last keeper. It's 3 more shows left. Stars Align, a last-minute contestant that I almost overlooked before recording this show, and is another sports anime, and it's about a team of sucky soft tennis boys. Like, they are bad at the sport. The girls team is great, and it's actually like kind of the pride of the school, but the boys team sucks ass, has never won any competition or something like that. And yeah, now they have to win a tournament to be allowed to continue existing, which is a new school-wide doctrine, apparently. All the clubs that don't produce results get abandoned and closed. And most of the team members like quickly resign themselves to their fate because they don't really care about the club.
Jeez.
But there's like, yeah, they're just in there to hang out, I guess, and because they had nothing better to do, and one of them wanted to, I don't know, get some girls and hope that he would, if he became a good soft tennis player, he would. Okay. But there's one capable player who seems to be kind of the captain of the team, Toma, who doesn't want to throw in the towel yet. And as fate wills it, his early childhood friend Maki returns to his hometown with his mom and transfers to their school. And he is very athletic. However, he is not interested in joining any clubs or sports in general. It seems he seems to be a giant astronomy and mathematics nerd and not really into sports, even though he's quite athletic. But, Toma wants him to join the team. And so he has some convincing to do. So he has one of his friends kind of investigate Maki, which is a bit shitty if you ask me. But he finds out that Maki and his mom probably live on their own and don't have that much money on hand. So Maki probably won't want to join expensive clubs. So this is the angle that Toma spins. And when Maki asks him to fork over a kind of ridiculous amount of money, Toma actually agrees. Because I think he might be fucking loaded. And that's that. Like, Maki is completely taken aback and flabbergasted, but yeah, he's like, okay, sure. Toma hands him a racket, a tennis racket, and Maki's like, okay, yeah, that might be fun. And I can earn some money on the way, sure. And yeah, so it looks fucking great. Simplistic but expressive designs, fantastic backgrounds, it's also great music. And what stood out to me visual-wise was the surprisingly wide array of body types among the students of the school, especially the girls, which I don't really get that much in anime. You get different heights, but not like, you don't really get like big girls that much. And you got that in those shows. And the same counts for the boys. Like, there's, thinner, thicker girls, they're smaller, higher, and in a lot of high school animes, you get like, all the girls look like these standard, beautiful, thin, with a lot of boobs and stuff like that. And in this show, this is very varied. It feels much more closer to reality than a lot of other anime that are set in high school. So that stood out at me. And I like that a lot. And like I said, great soundtrack. And I just thought, hey, this might be a nice, mellow, friends reunite through a sport anime. And then in the last 2 minutes of the first episode, Maki's deadbeat divorced dad shows up at his and his mom's doorstep, kicks the living shit out of Maki, and steals the money that Maki has been hiding away for his mom.
Jesus.
Holy fucking shit. So this show is gonna go places. And there are already allusions to family drama in Toma's home as well. So yeah, good times. But I was already super captivated by the sports anime stuff, and then they threw this fucking serious and disturbing twist my way. All right, stars align, I'll play. Show me what you got. Fuck me up, why don't you? That development caught me so off guard that I almost didn't want to give it away, but I thought I'd use it as a hook to convince our listeners that this is probably not another shonen-style sports show. Maybe more in the vein of Hanebado, though hopefully better written. But they definitely already have the shitty parents thing in common. And yeah, this was like super well, like that scene was so well executed. Like, holy, I was just fucking pushed back into my fucking couch cushion. It was like ridiculous. It was like, what the fuck? Didn't see that coming. And yeah, good stuff. I really want to see where this goes, where these characters goes, where that plotline with his dad goes, and what that show is actually going to say about all of this stuff. And yeah, cool stuff. I wonder how heavily the sports aspect will be even featured, or if this is just a show about adolescence, about growing up in maybe shitty households and stuff like that, and problems as a teenager. So yeah, cool stuff. It looks very interesting, and just in terms of visuals and presentation, it looks aces. So yeah, definitely surprise sleeper hit, last minute add to the keeper queue. But I'm definitely going to keep watching this one. Cool. Okay, and the last one before our last shared keeper is, for me, Blade of the Immortal, which we already had an adaptation of, which is based on a manga, and we already had an adaptation of in 2008. I didn't watch that series. But this is basically a samurai version of True Grit, for people who might have seen that Western. So basically the main character, Rin, hires the Slayer of 100, the Hyaku Ningiri, to save her mother and avenge her father. Because her father was killed, her mother was kidnapped, by a bunch of rogue samurai, I guess. Like they're called the Itoryu, who want to accumulate the strongest swordsmen in the country and who slay the weak ones and those who oppose them. And apparently they had some grudge with her father. And yeah, Rin wants revenge and save her mom. So she hires the Hyaku Ningiri, who's called Manji, his region name is Manji, to help her. I mean, she has learned, she's somewhat capable as a sword fighter, but she can't stand her ground against some of the best swordsmen in the country. So she needs, she takes on the help of Manji, and he is very capable indeed. Not only does he keep around a bunch of swords somehow in his fucking clothes, I don't know how he does it, but every time he starts a fight, he drops these fucking 10 swords or something out of his clothes and starts using all of them. It's crazy. But he's also kind of immortal. I mean, that's the name of the show. There is this thing in his family, or I don't know how it was transferred to him, but he's got these bloodworms or parasites or whatever that basically help him connect severed off limbs or body parts or whatever, or close wounds whenever he suffered some. Yeah. I assume it won't help him if his head gets cut off, but apparently so far that hasn't happened yet. But anything else is fair game. That guy gets cut up a lot. This show in general is super gory and fucked up. Lot of dismembered and bodies cut to pieces. It's really crazy. And yeah, this is what the show about. This is a samurai action thing, and it's very gory and super dark and fucked up. And Manji is fun and voiced by Kenjiro Tsuda.
There we go.
There we go. And he is only interested in truly evil people and doesn't want to fight for people who consider themselves just but are not, which is the only way for him to atone for his sins. There's some background there, why he is the way he is and why he has to fight evil people. I'll get into that once I get to the actual review down the line. But yeah, it's interesting. It's the setup for this is interesting. The dynamic between him and Rin is nothing new, but it's executed well. And it's a surprisingly funny show. Like, Michi is really funny. He's like a cool dude who doesn't seem to be like, hey, I'm immortal and super fighter, but I'm also an asshole. No, he seems to be, he's snarky. Like, he has a big mouth, but, he's fun and he's sympathetic. So, yeah, I like him. And I like Rin. And visually, this show is fucking ridiculous. It's one of the best looking anime seen in recent years. It's crazy. Almost every frame in this show looks like a painting. It's crazy. It's it's really good stuff. And I want to see more of it. After Dororo, I am always in the mood of more samurai stuff, and this is definitely much more darker than that. I mean, Dororo had its dark moments, definitely, but this is on a wholly different level. But at the same time, it feels like it retains the surprisingly human tone and warmth to it in certain scenes, considering the subject matter. So yeah, really good looking stuff, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. Really promising. Really promising. Yeah, definitely. And I think it's on Amazon, so I don't know if they release it on a weekly basis, but I think so.
Amazon, they try to release stuff on a weekly basis. Try, not as in a lack of effort try, but as in sometimes they try.
But again, nobody watches anime that are on Amazon, so nobody will talk about this show either.
Aside from us two.
Yes. It's the same that happens with Vinland Saga and then bumps me the fuck out.
Yeah.
So let's not talk about this anymore because I hate this. I hate that some of the shows that I really look forward to most are going to the services that has nobody talking about those shows because not a lot of people are using those services and fuck. Anyway, let's talk about the show that a lot of people will talk about. That's included. John, what is our last shared keeper?
I wonder what it could be. Oh, it's the 4th season of My Hero Academia.
Of course it is.
What else would it be? Come on.
Yes.
So, season 4. This is, in the wake of All Might's retirement. Midoriya and all the others have been doing their best to carry on his legacy and become professional heroes as quickly as possible. I mean, it's hard to describe it as anything other than, a continuation of what we've seen up to this point. But after, the big revelation that All Might was, retiring himself in, pushing his legacy into the next generation. The first episode kind of dealt with a little bit of recap and, hey, I'm a journalist, and I'm going to get a big scoop about Class 1A at UA Academy. And it sort of, turned out to be a bit more of a nice piece where this reporter, Tokuda, was like, so I know, I get it, I can see from deducing that you're All Might's disciple, but I'm going to keep it between us, and I'm going to take a photo for when you become the next symbol of peace. So it was sort of like, it's kind of a nice little moment that I wasn't expecting in the first episode. I don't know about you.
It felt like this was like from the beginning. This is going to be the recap episode because the third season had that too. But it's like, man, it's like I had this reporter guy pegged as the slimy paparazzi.
Yeah.
Because that's how it comes across in the first, and then it turns out no, he's also fan of All Might and inspired by everything and. It's just, it's such a fucking perfect display of how good this show is. Just it's reacquainting you with the characters, all the while telling like this really sweet little story about what All Might's legacy means to different people. And it's so nice. And the moment at the end where he takes a selfie with Deku is so fucking great. And I'm like, oh man, that's so nice. God, I feel good watching this show. Fuck! I love it. And yeah, it's also like that scene where, you know, All Might not having a secret identity anymore has its benefits. You know, everyone wants to help him and give him all the things because he did so much good stuff for so much good for people, for so many people. And it's funny and adorable that guy in the supermarket wants to shower him with fucking groceries.
Yeah.
It's great. And Yuki Hirashi's score immediately gave me goosebumps again. And it's good. I love this show, and I'm so happy it's back. And it seems like at least the first half of the fourth season will feature Overhaul as the new main big bad.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to learn more about what his deal is, like what his powers are and his backstory, which seems to be related to that little half ogre-looking girl in the OP.
Yeah.
Maybe? We'll see. I'm hyped and intrigued, and I'm so happy I get to follow that series for another 24-something weeks. Because My Hero Academia is fantastic. And I cannot imagine this season being as good or, God forbid, even better than season 3, because for me, that was the high point so far. And not only in My Hero Academia, but in Shonen Land in general, that was one of the best shonen things I've ever seen. So, yeah. But man, I don't need another season 3. I just need more My Hero Academia. I would do with another season 1 or another season 2. I don't care. I just want more. I just want more My Hero Academia. I love this show. And yeah, can't wait. Next episode is going to come out tomorrow, I think. Or today? Tomorrow.
Might be very shortly. It will be today for you. For me, it's tomorrow.
Yes. Okay. All right.
But yeah, man.
Soon enough.
This season is, number one, densely packed, and number two, there's a lot of longer shows this time around.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Food Wars, PSO2, Sword Art, FGO, and My Hero Academia are all 2 cooler shows. So there's going to be a while before we talk about any of those potentially.
Yeah. Might mean that spring will be hell, but we'll see. Because, you know, I don't know what's going to come up in winter, so we'll see how many shows get added to the pile there.
Haven't looked that far forward yet.
Yeah, winter can be a strong season too sometimes, so we'll know. We'll see. But those are our picks for the Nopes, the Maybes, and the Keepers, and those are a fucking bunch of shows. And we'll see with how many we stick. Because I can't see myself watching all of this. I don't think I will be able to, but I would like to, at least for most of these shows. So, yeah, we'll see where we end up and what we're eventually going to review. But, yeah, that's it for our recommendations of what to check out, what just started. And maybe you just want to pick some of those shows and watch along with us and then hear what we have to say about it when we actually review those shows. All right. Speaking of reviews, there's one thing we still have to do today, and that is our first review from summer, /spring season, because that show started in spring but ran until summer, or was released in summer on Netflix. And yeah, we will review that momentarily.
So, it's finally time to sit down and talk a little bit about Carole Tuesday. Have we talked about, at length anyway, any of Shinichiro Watanabe's work on the show before?
I was thinking about it, but I don't... No. Terror in Residence was before we started the show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the last big show of his I watched, I think. And, or we both watched, I think. And, yeah.
That show was...
Yeah. Didn't hold up. I mean, didn't fulfill the promise it made in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, since this is our first proper mention of Watanabe on the podcast, I mean, I'm sure doesn't really need much introduction for people who followed his work over the years, but some of his more notable works include the aforementioned Terror and Resonance, Space Dandy, Samurai Champloo. He apparently did a little bit of writing on Gundam Wing and Gundam 0083. Did a bit of direction on Macross Plus, which is one of my personal favorite Macross series / OVAs.
It is for many people.
I still will maintain it has some of the greatest anime dogfights I've seen in my life. God.
True.
The
most definitely.
Yeah, the detail and the execution in Macross Plus are great. We're getting away from it. Kids on the Slope, which is a show I have not yet personally watched, but I have heard that it's good stuff.
It is good stuff. The problem is, for some reason, it ends exactly one chapter before the manga ends, and the final manga chapter has some very integral character development wrap up. For some reason, they excluded that from the show, and I have no idea why.
That's strange.
That's one thing you should definitely do. Like, once you finish the show, like, read the rest of the manga for some reason. I don't know why they didn't do a special or something to wrap that shit up. But aside from that, it was a pretty cool show.
That's cool.
With some great musical performances. Shinichiro Watanabe loves music.
Oh man, you can tell music is definitely one of his passions, because I have left one name off this list, and it is probably one of my favorite anime of all time. The big granddaddy of them all, Cowboy Bebop.
Yes.
That show is over 20 years old, and it's still fantastic to this day. It still holds up, I think.
Yes, it still slaps, as the kids say.
It's fire.
Yeah.
A lot, most if not all, of the shows that Watanabe has headlined have strong musical theming, and Carole Tuesday is obviously no exception, because it centers around two girls who want to hit it big and become stars. Gonna become a star, baby. So the story is all about how it's been 50 years since mankind has begun its migration to a partially terraformed Mars, where they live in the comforts of advancement in AI. Carole lives in a metropolis of the city, working part-time by day and playing keyboard by night. And Tuesday has run away from her home in Herschel City to escape the grasp of her wealthy family and kind of overbearing mother for several reasons, and instead hopes to pursue music with her acoustic guitar. And after a fateful encounter, the two decide to perform together. And up against, the AI singers that dominate the music world, the two of them believe that together they can convey their feelings through songs. And sort of an interesting bit of the story is that, like, everything, like entertainment included, is like AI generated. So this is just a story of two girls trying to break out of the system and show that you don't need that to create your entertainment and your enjoyment. And it has a very strong meaning for that, to create what you believe and not what some computer algorithm tells you to. Because I feel that's something I didn't even think about until now. Algorithms, YouTube, online, you can't fight the algorithm if you're doing your own thing, which is sort of the core message that if whether or not hard work and luck will be enough to create the biggest miracle that Mars has ever seen. And
I mean the stuff with the fight, do things your own way and fight against this industry made up of AI produced songs and everything. That is not really their intent. I mean, that's the stuff we do, like derive from that, the stuff we get from that story. But they just want to make music, man.
Yeah, and that sort of ties into
create songs. Yeah, exactly. It's just it happens to be the normal, old style, the classic style to make music, and not the general style. Just they're only a vehicle to to propagate that message, basically. And it's fun. Like, they hit it off immediately once they meet. It's such an uncomplicated meeting. It's so fun. We're just immediately these two characters becoming friends immediately, and it makes so much sense. It doesn't feel contrived or anything. Like, yeah, these are two people that just get each other because they're on the same wavelength. Even though they come from completely different backgrounds. And, it's just one of those friendships that sometimes happens and is super great when it does. Because of, a passion, a dedication to a certain subject. And it's great stuff.
The problem with wanting to hit it big and make your own music is, where do you start?
Yeah,
the two of them kind of
with Instagram, apparently.
Yeah, the two of them sort of start playing music on the street a little bit. They make their own Instagram. They break into this I think it's called like the Mars Immigration Memorial Hall, and just sort of put on a very impromptu performance there, and they get noticed.
Yeah,
sorry.
While it's set up while the hall is set up for the performance of a much bigger performer, like a giant-ass DJ, who will be prominently featured in the story all the way throughout,
yes.
For one reason or another.
Who is he? Who am I? Ertegun.
Fucking idiot.
But
yeah, but
one of I guess you call him a production assistant. One of Ertegun's production assistants, Roddy, notices this and takes a video of their performance, and it's just like super captivated by them, and posts it online. And like many good things in this world, they go viral.
Yes.
And they get noticed by this producer named whose only name that we know of is Gus.
Mm-hmm.
He's sort of a washed up guy, sort of old, like beer belly sort of guy. He sees Carole Tuesday and he's like, all right, here's the plan. And he comes across at first like very sketchy.
Yes, indeed.
But,
like he is like full of hot air.
And, when he's having lunch with him, hey, can you pick up the tab? And at first he's sort of like,
It's like, you guys want that guy to be your manager? You sure?
But, we've sort of come to find out that, looks can be deceiving, because he does have certain connections, and he does have, he does have a pretty good heart.
He is not, he doesn't have it all figured out because he's not familiar with he does things old school, right? He is very familiar with the old way of doing things, and those ways don't always work out when they're trying to do a video, when they're trying to do, bring their first single on the road. What be it? And there's a bunch of things going wrong in the beginning, in the first steps of trying to make their career happen, and he's at fault for some of that. But he turns it around eventually, and like you said, he's got some connections, some hidden ones that actually turn out to be quite prolific and actually valuable to Carole and Tuesday down the road when it comes to actually producing their music. And yeah, that's cool. And Gus in general is just a fun character. I mean, Robbie too, but he's mostly there to be taken advantage of. I felt very sorry for him the entirety of this show.
Roddy is just sort of caught up in the middle of all this. He just sort of goes with the flow, but he's a good guy.
He is a very good guy. I mean, he got the hots for one of the girls. I think it was Tuesday. But, he is also not only doing that to get in her pants, but also because, he is really... He likes what the girls are doing, and the same goes for Gus. He's not only interested in making money with them, but he believes in their music. And that's cool stuff. So, like, this ragtag team that got, like, this AI producer thing in the beginning that tries to do a video for them, which is the actual shady thing, but
yes,
it's really fun.
Idea, as it calls itself.
Yes. Who watches an episode of Space Dandy in one of the episodes?
One of my friends was like, Idea reminds me of if QT were the irresponsible one. And I was like, I had to look it up, but it's the same voice actress.
There we go. I'm not surprised. Yeah.
So it's great. It's awesome.
It was fun seeing an episode of Space Daddy on the TV in the background, so I wonder if there are some other like references to Watanabe shows somewhere in there.
I mean, aside from the obvious that the currency is Wulong.
I mean, all the shows are supposed to be set in the same universe, right? The Wulong stuff, I think Wulong is also the currency in Cowboy Bebop. Mm-hmm. So, at least the space shows seem to be all set in the same universe. So, yeah, I don't know. It was interesting, but yeah, Gas is fun. Gas is fun, voiced by Akio Otsuka, by the way. Torkel from Vinland Saga. A lot of fun, and Rodius too. And there are a bunch of other characters that come into play during the course of the series. Tao is one important one, who's like this genius AI music producer, I guess, or well, AI programmer, whatever, creator, who then turns to music for one specific reason.
There's another girl who's trying to make her debut at around the same time as Carole Tuesday, named Angela. And Angela's mother/producer, Dahlia, takes her to meet Tao. And Tao is like, hey, if you sing exactly like the AI I'm programming, it'll make you big and rich and famous. To which, again, there's ulterior motives, or so it would appear. Tao's character for a long while has a lot of weird mystery going on. But, we'll get to that later on.
You really don't know what he's about. Like, to most of the show. I mean, you understand from the beginning, that's what he's saying, that he tries to create, like, this ultimate algorithm. He wants to create the perfect music algorithm, the perfect AI that can sing the best songs, I guess. At least that's what he says in the beginning. And that's why he is interested in Angela, because he needs a face for that algorithm and those songs, I guess. At least that's how it's set up in the beginning. And, Angela is this up and coming. She was like this childhood TV commercial star, whatever. And now she's a model. And yeah, now she wants to. It seems like her mom/manager is pushing her towards it, but Angela also has her own reasons. But she just wants to become famous through music. There's no real passion behind it. Like, she's like the hardcore pro. Like, there doesn't seem to be any kind of passion or love for anything she does to her. It's just about becoming famous and big. And we later learn why she is the way she is. And that is important because she is a hard-to-like character in the beginning.
Yeah.
She comes across as quite a bitch. I use a worse word.
I mean, I would say more like a diva, maybe.
Yeah, but a really bad one. Like, she gets this new manager girl who's really nice and tries to help her with everything, and she treats her like total garbage. Oh,
yeah.
I was really angry at her. Like, holy shit. Like, she is not a nice person in the beginning. And you can assume, you can make guesses that has something to do with her upbringing and everything, and her mom and whatever. But yeah, you later learn why she is the way she is, and some of that gets then tackled later and resolved by the end. But in the beginning, it's like, wow, she is hard to like.
Yeah.
I hope if she and Carole Tuesday clash, that they kick the shit out of her. Which, she might be inspired by Miley Cyrus, actually. I don't know. Just in terms of career, starting as a child star, then turning to music, and then, become more inspirational, and having this overreaching kind of mother/father figure, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
controls her career.
Dahlia was basically trying to live vicariously through Angela, and she basically says as such, so.
Yeah. But we talked about Watanabe earlier, that he loves music, and that this show is music in general, not only because of what is going on, but also in like everything about that show is about music. Like there's so many musical references in this. There are pictures of LPs as eye catchers. Every episode title is named after songs.
Much like in Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah. Gus saying he was responsible for Bruno Mars' performance. Ha!
There, actually,
Bruno's Mars performance. That's how they phrased it. That was great.
It is a sneak peek for next week's podcast. They did the same exact thing with all the episode titles too, which is pretty cool.
So there you go. Yeah, we got famous musicians mentioned, like Cyndi Lauper, for example. There's a bunch of stuff in here, and basically the whole show got a very musical movie or musical TV series feel to it, where it's like, hey, every time something important plot-wise comes up, the characters kind of express their feelings through song, either to each other or to a wider audience or to someone who is not really there, but, you know, who is in their mind and everything. So it's very consistent in that way, that music is like the through line. And every episode, pretty much every episode has a major, at least one, if not two, major musical performances.
It's a great,
where either
totally on board with that.
Yeah, sure. And they're all fantastic songs. Like, pretty much no exception there. It's really fun and sometimes engaging and sometimes heartwarming and riveting pop music. Mostly like in the songwriter style with piano, with guitar and everything mixing between. Sometimes some other instruments. Sometimes Carole Tuesday are only singing, and someone else makes the music and stuff like that. And then we get some other styles. But, you know, those two are acting as songwriters. And yeah, that's how most of the music in this is styled. But great songs, fun lyrics, and actually understandable, sensible lyrics, I guess, considering this is an anime. But I guess the songs were written by native speakers, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the one who did a lot of the like background music was this Canadian artist name goes by the name Maki. And then they tapped all sorts of international talent for the rest of the songs, which is super fucking cool. And I want to see more of that in anime, man.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
So we can, get this like internationalization of the medium.
Yeah, it's great stuff. And, like I said, it's a very important thing for the characters, just in general. Like, the music is their go-to thing. Like, whenever they are uncertain what to do, they just write a new song. And everything can make them do that. Like, there's the scene where they sit at the laundromat waiting for their laundry, and just the fucking sound of the laundromat inspires them to create a new song. Like, it's this impromptu jam session with just some guy sitting there, and who's like, what the fuck is going on? But then he gets into it, and they just fucking...
So good.
They're fucking doing song on the... just right there, and it's great. It's fantastic. Like, there are a bunch of moments like that in the show. It's just like, this feels super creative, and like, yeah, this is how art is made. And it's great. It gets you in a super good mood. And yeah, I liked it, and a lot. It's also really funny. Like, a lot of like the whole episode with Idea is incredibly funny. Like, pretty much every stuff with Ertigan is really funny. He's a dickhead, but a funny one.
It's just, once again, it's Mamoru Miyano playing to his strengths. being loud and obnoxious.
And this is a show by Shinichiro Watanabe, like we said, and it's done by Bones. So I don't think we really have to say anything more in terms of how the visuals of the show are.
Oh, man. But
we still will.
The first episode alone, just like the view out on the city, and then like their performance, it's so captivating.
It's fantastic. Like, and I rarely, it's one of those moments where you realize you're watching master craftspeople as their work, where like every design, every camera perspective, every scene transition, every camera movement, anything in this show is like perfectly coordinated. It's like, feels incredibly purposeful. Like, yes, this is exactly where this needs to happen, and someone knows exactly what they're doing right here. They are super experienced in creating this kind of stuff, And this feels like really great workmanship. And this could be felt all the way through. Like, the character models are mostly consistent. You know, there's some rough edges here and there, but nothing too noticeable. And the musical performance look ridiculously good sometimes. Sometimes it's a bit off, where it's like, okay, the mouth movements don't necessarily quite fit the lyrics, but mostly it works. And it's interesting. They mostly use hand-drawn animation, except for some machinery, but the musical instruments are CG, which is like an interesting choice, and it doesn't really stick out. It's noticeable, but it's like, okay, they did that. I don't know why. Maybe to give the guitar a more shiny feel. I don't know.
They actually kind of did that with the show we'll be talking about next week. So yeah, this seems to be a common thing that's happening with like musical anime, I guess.
Maybe it's easier to do certain movement for CG instruments than it is if they're hand drawn.
Yeah, I suspect that might be the case.
Music instruments. Yeah, this is so well crafted. This is such a good looking, well crafted show. Like, the designs in the show are fantastic. Like, everything you see in terms of machinery on Mars, like, everything feels like it belongs there. Like, it makes sense. Fucking Carole's weird little skateboard that she has makes total sense. It looks super great. The fashion in this show, like the clothes, the clothing is super varied and fantastic design. Like, just such a varied plethora of designs. It's fucking amazing. Like, there's so much interesting stuff to look at, and nothing gets overused or looks old after a while. Like, the show is keeping it fresh and always gives you interesting new things to look at and to listen to, for that matter. And I really liked that. I felt like the entirety I was watching this show, I felt like I'm looking at people who are fucking good at their job, doing what they do best.
I feel like this might be like, if not the culmination of like all of these people's works and passions, it's pretty close.
And it would be fitting. I mean, that's what the subject of the show is about, right?
Yeah.
This is purely about creating art, conveying your feelings through your art, and bringing people together with that art, and, you know, showing other people how important this is to you and how important that can be in the wider context of what is happening in the world. And we'll get to that a bit later without going into much detail, but still, it's interesting to talk about. But this is definitely artists talking by creating this show about making art, about their own art. This is definitely, I mean, other shows do that too, in a bit more metaphorical style. We'll talk about a thing next time around that also kind of does that, or a studio that does that in general. But this one is clear cut, a show about artists creating art, and this show is also drawn by artists, naturally, created by artists who want to talk about art by doing this show. It's great stuff, and it's very resonant if you've ever created stuff before. It's one of those. It's like Recreators. Only Recreators was doing something completely different with that. This is more, you know, stuck to reality. This is basically, it's much more grounded. Yeah, this is just a fucking, not necessarily coming of age story, because I don't think there happened that the time gap is not that big in that show. Actually, I think this all happens in the course of a few months. Maybe a year?
Ish, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much exactly a year. I think when they meet, Carole just had her birthday, and I think they celebrate that in one of the later episodes or something like that. So I think it's pretty much exactly a year. There's not that much time passing in that show, but it's more about Carole and Tuesday's success story, like making their career, turning the thing they love into something, I guess, they can live off, and sharing their passion with the world. And, you know, taking that from the smallest venue, which is the street corner, to the biggest stage. And, you know, the roadblocks they experience on the way. And, you know, the people they join them on the way, and the people they have a confrontation with on the way, and all that stuff. And there are many different stages to that. One of the biggest ones is a talent singing whatever contest, something like America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent, in that vein, which is pretty much the finale or the second half of the first part of this show.
It's pretty much like the end of the first act, I'd say.
Yeah, pretty much like around episode, I don't know, 10 to 13 or something. That's where that happens, I guess. A bit earlier, maybe. And that's great. Like, I think, what is it called? Mars Brightest or something? Yeah. Holy shit. I loved it.
And all of the talent that they show off is phenomenal. And they also touch on some stuff like Tuesday has a stalker, which was like, yeah, that feels pretty real. Like something like that could happen.
Yeah, generally the show is not afraid to show the dark side of fame.
Yeah.
Like the stalker thing, and Gus, old friend, and who was a famous like performer before, but got lost in drugs and drifted into drugs and everything, and her career went down the drain and stuff like that. And all the people that were in her life were only out for her money because she was famous and stuff like that. So that, of course, that happens in real life as well, and the show is not afraid to show that. Besides all the bells and whistles that a musical career can bring with it, but there are the dark sides too. And yeah, I was very grateful for the show not being afraid to show that. Although the part with the stalker was a bit dumb, because Carole should have known that it was that one person that did that to Tuesday. And they I don't know, they extended a bit too long for my taste, where it's like people being dumb for drama's sake, and I don't like that. I mean, they don't do it too long, but it feels like, yeah, these people are acting stupid for this to continue a while, which is a bit dumb. But it was just a small hiccup. It was nothing major. It was like, oh man, no, the show's getting bad. It was like, this is weird. Why would you do that? This is kind of obvious who's responsible for this, and anyone with a brain should see that, and especially her closest friend, who was a witness to everything that happened between those two characters. So, just
it was a little strange that it was immediate, like, it's her, but a dramatic irony and whatnot. Whatever, I was willing to let that pass.
But in general, like, Mars Bright is so fantastic because you see so many weird, different performers. Not all make it into the finals, of course, but it feels like a real weird talent show. Like, wait, what do I have? Like, Charlotte, the singing punk rock puppet, killed me. Also, Dubstep Grandma. Like the whole talent show qualifiers are hilarious. And then also that continues into the actual, like, face-offs, I don't know, tournament, I don't know what you would call it, where basically two performers compete against each other, then get judged by a jury, and whoever gets the better grades continues to the finale and stuff like that. That's how that thing works. And yeah, of course, Angela takes part in that too. And I really like that. I think there were some surprises in there, like that fucking streamer dude, Piotr.
Yeah.
I thought I would hate that fucker. Like, you see, I hate his personality. It's like, oh, fuck, get him out of here. And then he does his musical performance, and I'm like, what the fuck? This is actually great, and it's animated like, holy fucking shit, super well.
Piotr turns out to be pretty cool.
Yeah, he's great. Like, kind of everyone in that contest does, but he really caught me by surprise. I was like, okay, this is all right. I don't like his style, but his music is good, and man, yeah, he knows how to dance and shit like that. That was one of those performances that really surprised me, and that was so well animated that I didn't want to believe my eyes. It's like, holy fucking shit, Bones. You rotoscoped the fuck out of this. What are you doing? But man, the Mermaid Sisters got robbed. Their song was fantastic.
I
feel betrayed.
As soon as they got on stage and was started coming out of their mouths, I was just like, "Oh my God, this is fantastic! This is the best."
Yes, this is my new workday theme. I decided I will play that every Monday morning once I arrived in the office because this resonated with me on a very emotional basis. Anyway, it's good stuff, and that also means a big step. Like that competition means is a big step in their career and in Angela's career for different reasons. And from then on, it's like, hey, what's gonna happen next? And Carole Tuesday actually want to produce their own first album, and they actually find a producer who is a wheat farmer. Why not? And this is where we slowly enter the second half of the series, and this is where things get different. John, what happens?
So after they meet with Toby, and he calls everything they work on some variation of the word shit. Mm-hmm. They produce.
That's how you produce an album, don't you?
Yes.
Throw everything out that is not perfect. And I like Toby. He has a great quote. All I want from life is a real dog and real music. So I'm like, okay.
There you go. Okay.
I get him. All right, sure. Same, really. But cool stuff. But he's fun. He's like this crazy lunatic who comes across like an axe murderer or something in the beginning.
Yeah.
But he's old school, just like Gus, and they get each other, and actually he knows his music. So.
Yeah. Carole Tuesday. Before we get to the next part, they get a gig at South by Southwest, which I guess they must have paid to be able to use that name because that's interesting to me. Mm-hmm. That's when they meet Flora, who I think you alluded to earlier, who is one of the artists that Gus helped produce, but that she had fallen very hard from her old graces because she was very tired and very strung out on several things.
Yeah, and she lost faith in her own talent. Yeah. And Erdogan's story is about that as well later in the show. Like, he's also losing the ability to believe in his own talent when some stuff happens to him. Some funny stuff, arguably. And he had it coming, kind of. But you understand, and it's again one of these darker sides of fame and the pressure that comes with that to deliver constant output of constant creative output. And Flora is one of those people that wasn't able to stand up to that pressure. Mm.
Yeah, Erdogan, as you said, wakes up and finds himself bankrupt. Oops. Yeah. And all of his stuff is taken, his house is foreclosed on, and he has to basically start over as well.
These are these small vignettes, like a lot of small character stories that give a bit more texture to the universe that Carole Tuesday plays in. Where it's like, okay, we got these different artists who have different experiences, and in one way or another, they intersect with some of the other characters in the show. Not necessarily with Carole Tuesday, and I get to that later when I come to my points of critique for the show. But, there are other characters in the show, like Erdogan goes to Tao, who is supposed to help him get his groove back and stuff like that. Don't even know how they knew each other, but that happens. Mm. So, and, the stuff with Flora and Gus is also, important, and also brings you a really sweet scene. Like, this show is full of tearjerkers, I won't even pretend that this is not the case. Like, there are a bunch of heartwarming moments and emotional moments in that show that are underlined by beautiful songs. And I think Flora's highlight episode is one of the best in that regard. Mm-hmm. I really liked it.
But yes. After that, Carole Tuesday are invited to play at the Cydonia Festival, where they meet with a reporter named Kyle, who is doing a story on Tuesday's mother, Valerie. and he's trying to dig up some dirt on her because it seems like there may be some, shall we say, not so clean backroom political dealings, because we haven't talked about it quite yet, but Valerie is running to be president of Mars, and the platform that she's running on is a little true to life. Oh boy, how can we say it nicely? It's pretty close to saying "make Mars great again."
Yeah, it mirrors certain right-wing, seclusionary, anti-immigrant, anti-globalism politics. And the show, frames her not as unsympathetic as certain characters in real life. Like, she is willingly being manipulated by a sinister campaign manager, all for the sake of winning. I expected her to be knowingly manipulated, but things pan out a bit differently, I guess.
Yeah, because there's certain things that her campaign manager Jerry does on her behalf that she doesn't have knowledge of, and it gets very messy for her.
Yeah, like Jerry has this AI algorithm that analyzed the public and decided that using a nationalistic motivated campaign is going to be most likely to garner her the presidency, which is such a damning commentary on the people of power in certain countries right now and the people who voted them into office, and on the state of the world in general. Like, not only Japan, not only the United States, but Japan has some problems with nationalist tendencies as well. So, yeah, a lot of people want to be lied to and want these people in office because it fits their shitty worldview and promises them they don't have to change it. And it's not like the people trying to get voted into office actually believe in that stuff. It's just the easiest way to climb to the top on the backs of the most stupid people in their respective country. And yeah, I think this aspect of the show, which I didn't see coming actually, and to be fair, they could have gone deeper on that. They treat it a bit superficially. I mean, they show many different aspects and many different sides of the story and personal character stories that are related to that and that suffer from, the things going haywire here in a political sense. But it feels like, okay, we could have gone a bit more into why this works so well for that person and who these people are who are so willing to condemn other people here. But I still think this aspect of the show is a nice cold shower for people who insist that anime is this sacred kingdom free of politics they don't like, which always makes me laugh.
Didn't you know? There's no politics in anime or video games.
No. Yeah, no politics in Japan at all. Yeah. You people are idiots. Anyways.
It's obvious that Watanabe and his crew were able to dial in on that as closely as they did.
And I should have expected something like this, considering that his last work I watched was Terror in Resonance. But I think the messaging here is much more clear and understandable than whatever he was trying to say in Terror in Resonance. I don't really get what he was trying to say about terrorism in that. Like, it felt weirdly stitched together, and it felt like whatever he was trying to say was just not being conveyed very well.
Yeah.
Maybe I've missed something, but that show just didn't really feel like it had to say something worthwhile or interesting at all. Carole Tuesday does. Like, it is a pretty simple message, especially if you take contemporary politics into consideration, but it rings true. And it is a good message. It is a bit naive and optimistic to a fault at a certain point. Like, this is one of the points of critique I could bring towards the series, that it is sometimes too optimistic. And don't get me wrong, this is a very good thing to be, and a very good thing to be criticized for. But especially when it comes to addressing certain politics, the show rather wants to rely on a conspiracy plot to make some characters redeemable, instead of admitting that a lot of people are just racist assholes by default and don't need an inciting, orchestrated incident to put their shitty attitude on display. But the show wants to believe and wants to make you believe that everything can be solved through like everyone coming together in song, so that all people can understand each other. And while we all know that's not how the real world works, it's a very admirable stance to take, in my opinion. And it fits the musical theme of the series. Like, that's what happens in musical. Like, you got this big number at the end, where everyone like comes together and conveys their feelings to, I don't know, the person next to them, the most important person to them, or the audience, or whatever, or sums up the moral of the story or stuff like that. And I feel like this is happening in that show as well, and this is what this show is trying to do. So this fits like with this musical movie theme that is going on. And it's also a big vote for people to not cower in fear and instead find the courage to just openly rebel against injustice and take a stand in any way they can. And most importantly, to never lose hope in the face of misery. And I think that's great. I think that's a good thing to say. Yes, it could have gone deeper there, but it didn't even have to go there. Like, it could have just been a story about, hey, these two girls who want to make music, want to create art, and this is their road to success, their life story. And that would have been fine. That would have been enough. But the show actually tried to do some more, and I appreciated that. I think that was great. What were your overall like feelings on the political stuff? Did you feel like it was like, I don't know, jammed in there? Did it feel unorganic to you, or was it like, no, this made sense and this was kind of well built up and not too rushed and not too, I don't know, artificially orchestrated or whatever?
I mean, I see where you're coming from when you say those sorts of things. Like, I don't know if I feel like it felt forced per se.
I didn't feel it felt forced. I'm just asking if this is like maybe came across to you. I didn't feel it was forced, just maybe a bit superficial in certain parts. Yeah, it didn't go into substance.
Maybe a little bit, but I mean, I feel like they got in there and they said what they wanted to say about the state of the world, and a lot of politics in certain countries raises hand. But yeah, I mean, this and another show we're going to talk about in a few weeks, you know, with that also kind of touched on some of the same stuff. Maybe not as strongly as this show did, but
let's say it's a lot more cynical about that whole stuff than Carole Tuesday. Yeah. Carole Tuesday is much more hopeful and much more optimistic about that whole stuff. Yeah, that other show is not.
The other show, I feel like, is much more of a realist view of things. This is the optimist view of things.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get as cynical as like Lagoon, for example, which I'm currently rewatching, and holy shit, that show has not nice things to say about the state of the world. Let's just keep it that way.
That's also something I need to sit down and watch. I started watching it years and years ago, and I never finished it. I really got to sit down and finish watching that. But yeah, this show definitely said what it wanted to say about the state of the world, and I feel like it did it in a way that it wasn't without meaning. It didn't feel rushed or shoehorned in, because, you know, obviously we knew up to that point that Tuesday's mother, you know, had some involvement in politics. We didn't know exactly what, and then when that bubbled to the surface, it was sort of like, hey, here's your wake up call, by the way. We can talk about these sorts of things in anime too. We have, you know, it's sort of a, I guess, slanted look at it, but it's about time that someone put a spotlight on it for the people who say that, you know, there's no politics in insert your favored medium here, and, you know, there will still be people who come out and say, oh no, that wasn't political, and obviously they're wrong. Yeah. But, you know, it's...
I mean, come on, like, there are literal Mars ice agents in this fucking show.
Yeah, when Amer and others get picked up by ice after... I think it's after Amer puts out a music video of him, like, burning some legal document, and it's like, freeze ice! And it's like, oh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Yeah. So anyone who says that this show isn't drawing parallels to real world events is either blind or an idiot. I can't mince my words here. This is pretty clear cut social and political commentary. It can't get any clearer than this. This is text, people. This is not subtext. But yeah, and the show is not trying to hide it. Like, no. Not at all. Like, it's so clear at what it's trying to say. And I admire it for that. Like, it's not trying to, like, I don't know.
It's not sugarcoating anything.
No, it's not. It's not mostly. Like I said, you could.
Yeah.
They walk some stuff back to redeem a certain character or to keep that character redeemable, and make it a bit too easy on itself by making it all solve it all through song and through it. A lot of the stuff being motivated through a conspiracy and stuff like that, and not saying, hey, they're just bad people on Mars who want certain people gone. Because they're, that's how it would be in real world. Because they're just assholes here. And that's not what the show is saying. The show is saying here, hey, we are human beings, and if we actually listen to each other and talk to each other and created with each other and made art with each other, we would be able to coexist. Yeah. And that's an idealism, right? That's very optimistic idealism. That's how it should be. That's not how it's gonna be, because that's not how people work. But it is a nice sentiment, and it can still be an important message. So that's why it works. And like I said, musical themed show. Musicals are always a bit on the cheesy side, so I'm willing to let the show get away with that, and that's fine. And like I said, everything else about the show works as well. So why would that be the thing that killed the show for me? Not at all. I'm glad that it tackled such a subject at all. Oh no, wouldn't maybe call it brave. Brave it would be if it maybe criticized some certain Japanese politics or stuff like that. But, it's always easier to criticize over the big pond than to, dig in your own backyard. But still, like I said, this doesn't have to relate to American politics exclusively. There's some tendencies in Japanese politics that some of that stuff can apply to as well. So I didn't interview Watanabe for this, so he might want to say something about his country as well. But this is obviously the parallels to certain American governmental decisions are definitely in there. And that's pretty cool. I appreciated that. And I appreciated a lot of other stuff about the show. And like you said, it was well built up, like the development with Tuesday's mother and everything. It was a bit weird that she and Tuesday didn't have any interaction whatsoever during the show. I don't know if it was none, but it was minimal. I feel like, there was a flashback, I think, and that's it. And I would expect, like, the finale, like, have them... I mean, she's watching her on TV and everything, but still, it's like... I mean, Spencer acted as an intermediary between them. Yes. And it was always made clear that they have a strained relationship, and maybe after this they will come into contact again, which is, I assume, is going to happen, because it feels like that's how that would play out. But it's like, okay, there are certain things happening in Tuesday's life, and there are certain things happening in Verily's life, and I feel like in a normal dramatic story, like Tuesday would be the one that convinces her mother to develop in another direction, to think things over. And she is not responsible for that. That's Spencer's doing. That is entirely Spencer's and the reporter's stuff. Like, I expected Tuesday's decisions and Tuesday's performance and whatever have to make more of an effect on what actually was going on with the political subplot. It doesn't really... They don't have any real agency in that. There is some stuff happening in that affects them, and they then do a song and performances that affect others again, sure, but they don't really have any real involvement in that part of the story at all. And this is one of the things that's a bit... It didn't put me off the show or anything, But some of the parts in the story just felt weirdly unconnected. Like I mentioned before, Carole Tuesday, aside from writing and performing their music, are not really the agents of their own story. A lot of stuff just happens to them. Most of it because of their talent as songwriters, or their charisma, or charm, or whatever you want to call it, because they're just two cute, cool, interesting women. And all of these features and capabilities are entirely their own and important to make things come together for sure. But parts of the story feel like that those two are stumbling from development to development after a while without necessarily being the active cause of those developments. And also some of the actual interesting character development is more relegated to certain side characters rather than to our two main characters. A lot of this is focused on, of the stuff on our main characters is focused on them advancing their career and, coming up with new songs and, then we get some stuff with Tuesday's mother and some stuff with Carole's childhood friend later. But they don't really... There is one small moment where it feels like they don't see eye to eye and there's like these unspoken feelings between them. But that gets resolved pretty quickly. And aside from that, there's not much tension between those two. They're just good friends. And there's not much... I don't know. There's not much development between their two characters, I feel like. Their relationship kind of stays the same throughout the story. And I guess that's not a bad thing. That's the bond that's keeping them together. That's the core of the show, is their friendship, which advances and makes everything that happens around them and influencing these people positively possible. But it still feels like, okay, these characters are, in certain parts of the story, a tool to have other characters meet who then actually advance the plot. And it's like, and these two are just happen to be there. I don't know if you felt about that way too, but that sometimes the show felt like that to me. Like a lot of the other characters around this had more interesting stories to tell than Carole and Tuesday themselves did.
I guess I didn't really think about it too hard before you talked about it, but you're kind of right.
Yeah, and also while theirs and Angela's story comes together in the very end pretty well, there's not really that much interaction between those two plot strands before that. These two character stories run pretty separate for most of the show, which was kind of weird to me and felt a bit like a missed opportunity. Like, Angela is built up in the very beginning like, oh, she is going to be their rival. They're going to clash, they're going to be like, I don't know, they're going to be at competitions all the time, and there's maybe she will move in with them for some reason or another. There will be more clashes between those, like more friction. Some shit will happen that will make them hate each other or whatever. There will be drama between these characters, and that doesn't happen. Not really. She says at some point that she doesn't like their music, and we later learn why that is. I mean, we can assume why at a certain point. But it's not really like their story, their development, their success story, whatever, their career happens on kind of a different plane than Angela's does. They have meeting points at certain events, but they don't really interact with each other. And I expected that to happen, and it didn't. And that was, I don't know, it was kind of weird to me. It's like the story about people who happen to meet sometimes in life, and then they influence other people, and those meet, and that feels very real to life. Because, yeah, sure, that's how things can happen in real life. But usually, in anime, in TV series, in whatever, novels, movies, some of those things feel a bit more, I don't know, constructed to drive certain development, development of certain characters forward, to drive plot forward. And in a lot of parts of the story, it feels like Carole and Tuesday especially were just drifting through their own story from wave to wave in a big ocean of characters who then happen to interact with each other on occasion and advancing some of the plot. Like the reporter guy with Spencer got an important part, and Valerie later that, of course, too. Then we got Tao on the other side, partially with Angela, but his part in the political stuff is kind of his own. We got Angela and her mother, who have their own storyline, which is pretty separate from anything else, but then later becomes the important part in Angela's storyline. But again, that also runs completely separate until the very last episode from Carole Tuesday's story. It was all a bit, I don't know. There were some moments in this show where it was like, it feels like I'm watching two different shows at the same time. Like, we get this story of this character, and we get this story of this character, and it feels like they're not meeting. There is no intersection here. And I don't know if that is intentional for some reason, or that's just happened to be how the story progressed. And yeah, that was just weird to me. I assume this didn't put you off. You said you didn't think about this before. This didn't occur to you.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I noticed that on several occasions. It's like, okay, we're switching to this character again. And, I don't know. It was weird. Just a weird choice in certain parts. I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, I don't know how it didn't occur to me at all while watching, but I don't know. I guess I was just so on board with seeing the parts of the story unfold and how it would come together at the end. And I just like a good musical, man.
Understandable. So, and this might be my critique of the show, but that doesn't mean that I didn't love it, because I did. I love this show. I think it's great. It's just like there's some parts of the show where it's like, okay, I don't quite get what they were doing with this, like why they decided to do it this way, and why there wasn't more interaction between those characters and whatever. And yeah, but I guess in the end, this is just a story about two really good friends who, like we said in the beginning, who want to create art and want to make the world come together and enjoy music together and be happy, and everyone find their place in life, and just create, just be good people. And they are really good people. And I don't know, it's if you want to see a really uplifting story, if you need a motivation boost, watch Carole Tuesday. Like, holy shit, good feelings pretty much all around. I mean, there's some darker tones in the later part of the series, definitely. But trust me, I don't want to give everything away, but the positive note is like very strong in this series. It is super optimistic and super positive, and hope is the big message here. And yeah, it ends really strong in my opinion. The
miraculous 7 minutes were exactly that, man. Oof.
Yeah, they were teased in every episode at the very beginning.
Yeah,
a small teaser by Gus, narrated by Gus, and then we finally see what it is.
And then they mirrored that narration on the end of the episode. And I was like, yes, it's perfect.
Yes, really good stuff. Yes, and yeah, I don't know what else to say. I think this is a fantastic show, which can be watched on Netflix, people. So this is out of Netflix jail at this point, obviously.
Yay.
There's also, I didn't even mention that yet, there's some interesting stuff said about, in general, the show has a good representation of people of color. Like, it's a very colorful cast, which I also liked. Playing into that political stuff naturally later on, very much as well. But also we get some LGBTQ representation here in several ways, in several different forms. I think the most interesting one is this thing called Mars androgyny, which occurs in some people due to the Mars's radiation, and which basically makes people genderless at a certain point, so that they decide what they want to be, basically. And I think that's what happened to Angela's mom, who might have been previously her dad, I think. At least it's alluded to. And that's interesting. Many different aspects. Many different interesting aspects brought into the show. And like we mentioned before, the stuff with the stalkers, an interesting depiction of parasocial relationships and how that shit can go awry. So very many different social subjects tackled in this show. Maybe some of those just superficially, but some they go a bit deeper on, and I really like that. I think that's more than I could have asked from the show, and more than I expected from the show. So yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. I don't know what else to say to recommend this to you. And I think it's good to binge too. Like I said, it's very entertaining. It doesn't drag anywhere. Got good pacing, and enough stuff is happening in every episode. You won't get bored. Yeah, well directed. Just in general, well staged, and fantastic musical performance. It's just like, yeah, Carole Tuesday. It's got great characters, great animation, great songs, and the message is good and important. And it would be great if this show inspired some people with its positive thinking so that its hopeful message can keep on echoing in the thoughts of as many people as possible. To be continued in your mind. And that is a wrap on the 82nd episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vrt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Leave us comments and questions on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at AnyBrainFreeze, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's
Take
gut.
care, everybody. Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
The sexual awakening of a bunch of bookworms.
You never know how inspiration will strike or who your muse will be.
And an anime movie so hot it will make you burnish with passion.